Welcome to episode number 11 of Carl Knows People podcast. Today's guest is someone that I have collaborated with off and on, mostly off for the last 35 years. He was a member of my first band, the second guitarist that we had. Then we did a little bit of stuff here and there after that project. My guest today is Derek Rivera. How you doing, Derek?
Hey, Carl. Thanks for having me.
Whoa,
35 years, you said? That was a long time ago.
35-ish. Well, I guess that's where we'll start.
It's always the ish that gets you.
Yeah. I usually start. Do you remember when we met for the first time?
I remember my first awareness of you, but I don't know if it was an official, like, hi, my name's Derek. But I think it was the first year you had come to SMS. I think we had the same PE time, but I think you had a different, maybe a teacher. I had Miss Balabanis, and I think you had like the guy, maybe
Mr. Cruz.
Yeah, is that
his name? Yeah.
Right? But definitely. And funny enough, I think he was there the year before, but you were friends with Ryan, and that's kind of the first time I remember Ryan too. And I remember you guys as a pair.
Yeah, well, you went to a different school with Ryan. I think he moved there in 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't necessarily remember him in 7th grade.
Okay, yeah.
I don't really remember him till he was with you that day. So, yeah, just interesting.
So, yeah, we knew of each other in middle school.
Yeah.
I think the first time I actually remember having a class with you would be weight training.
Yeah, that was a weird class. There was a weird group of kids at our age. Like I remember I took it with my buddy James Adcox. Mm-hmm. And then like I think I buddied up really well with Ethan in there. And you were in there, and it was like there was a shyness about it too for me too, because like I didn't know how a lot of the equipment worked because I'd never been in a weight room before, and I assumed everyone else did. So I was really timid about being a dork and doing something wrong. So I probably wasn't very talkative beyond those two people in that class.
I think I do remember because you didn't play sports. So I think I was a little surprised on your strength that was happening in there. I do recall that.
Yeah, that's the closest thing I'll get to a football career, that compliment, because I think Nate too said at one time that I was pretty fast. He was impressed too, because we had a PE class, and I was pretty athletic, and so was my older brother, but we just didn't get to do sports. But
you didn't get to, or you didn't interest you? Did you even do like little league, little kid sports, or anything?
I did. I tried league when I was in like 3rd grade, and I wasn't good at it. I was afraid. They had this like phenom pitcher, like he was amazing little kid, and he'd occasionally hit people, and it wasn't like a normal little kid hitting you with the ball. This was like a kid like that was high school like skill, but he was like 3rd grade too, but he could pitch. And so I was really afraid to be up to bat, and I was afraid to catch balls because of that, because I think someone did hit me with a ball one time and it hit, and I was just afraid. So track and running seemed like good, and that was probably my interest.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, maybe football. I think we had a discussion before where like there's benefits from sports that I didn't think about back then. Anyways,
yeah, I was timid when it come to athletics. Any kind of contact sport, I wasn't real excited about. Even when things get a little bit chippy in basketball, I mean, once you're in the flow of the game, it's a little different, but just the anticipation of like playing football and getting hit, or the kids are bigger than you. And I didn't like that at all. Wrestling, I did wrestling in middle school, 7th grade, before I moved to the Valley. I wasn't good. I mean, I was JV. It sounds like I was good. I went 3-1, but I wrestled the same guy twice, beat him twice, and I had to substitute one match for the varsity guy because he was sick. So I had to go against their varsity guy, and he was undefeated that season. He pinned me in 15 seconds. It was like, oh.
Is this before you moved over to our side?
Yeah, this is 7th grade when I was in 7th grade.
So question with all that you just said, does it all reset? Like once you kind of do get a little comfortable, like going to a new school, I would imagine in 8th grade, meeting a new set of kids that
Hmm.
you never did sports with in like anything lower grades or anything. Like, did it kind of just make it all crazy again? Like, oh shit.
Yeah. Especially football. They didn't offer football for seventh graders in Othello. You start in
Oh,
eighth grade. So
yeah.
football was a totally new experience for me. Um, Basketball seemed fine. I was pretty good at basketball. I started for it during eighth grade. I was one of the 5 starters. So I was decent at basketball. Track, I don't think I did. I didn't do track until high school, and that was just throwing events. I was shot put, discus.
Now, if I remember correctly, like I was not the biggest into the sports or the spirit of school, but I felt like the middle school basketball team was like pretty good, like for
I'm gonna
ish.
say we were like 9-3 or 9-2 or something. Yeah, a pretty good record.
I
We
feel
had
like compared to the other sports though, like in 8th grade, like I remember basketball being more of an impact of like success from what I could think
from middle school,
compared
you
to
mean?
like yeah, middle school. But I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't follow it.
There was an influx of new students that year, and I think 3 of them were starters. So Ron Shepard moved in that year. I think Jeff Crow moved in that year,
Yeah.
and I moved in that year. Was Jeff? Yeah, I think Jeff was. Yeah, Jeff was middle school. So us 3 who were eventually the starters. So 3 of the 5 were new kids. So I don't know what basketball.
Good thing they didn't
Bas-
investigate us. Maybe we did that on
I
purpose.
know, like the whole East Side Catholic
I did notice your mom
controversy.
was driving a brand new Ford, like weird. No,
Right. I remember that when we were in high school, people would move to. Some people would like go to Eastside Catholic like their senior year because Eastside Catholic was better at
yeah,
sports.
they
And
probably weren't tracking it as much back then. Now it's like they busted them a couple times.
okay, so
Eighth
we've
grade.
met junior high, probably passing, high
Yeah,
school in passing, actual meeting of like us being in each other's like musical was me post high. No, my junior year, and you were at Two Rivers.
you know what's funny? Yeah, you're probably right. Ironically, we're not going to school together anymore, and that's kind of when we started to get to know each other.
Yeah, get to know each other.
But my recollection is there was nothing. There was no bad or good. Like you seemed like a chill kid. You weren't a bully. You weren't a dick. You just seemed like a I may have not known you, but I didn't have a bad opinion of you.
And
So
I don't even did you. I was trying to piece together the timeline. Oh yeah, you definitely knew that I played because I was asking when we met out at Ryan's parents' place, if you knew that I played, but obviously you did because that was after our first show with when you were Subidral and I was Sally Groove. Is that correct?
I feel like it was before. I feel like Matt. That whole thing was Matt bringing me over. Matt was going to Ryan's. Matt was friends with the Coxes,
Yeah.
so he was bringing me over. And this part I don't remember. Maybe it was a jam or something already predetermined. Maybe it wasn't just casually, but I don't know if I knew you were going to be there. But I think I was just showing up to play with some people. Maybe that's what it was. And it was you, me, and I remember Matt being there.
Yeah, Matt and Chris, his brother, were there.
Right. But I think I'm just trying to think how we played. So Matt would have had a drum kit. Did Ryan try to play bass? Was that a thing?
Yeah, I think so. I
So that
think
might have been the thing. Yeah.
so. I don't know if that was hey, let's try to get a band jam thing going. Because I don't know why in my mind I'm thinking that I went out there and we had just lost Josh. Then you and I talked about you coming over
It's a little
to
fuzzy, but
start
I
a
don't
group.
remember it like that. I remember it more like maybe we were like, "Oh, that was cool, man. Yeah, you're a cool guy. I'm a cool guy. Like, let's keep in touch." And then maybe shortly after that, that was a situation like where now I was on your radar and you were on my radar. Because I don't remember talking about the show. Like I remember it being kind of the first time I jammed with people besides my band, like that were just other kids. So I think I was still in Subidral. So I think that just came later. I think we stayed in touch, especially when we found out we were playing together.
Yeah. Okay,
That's
we'll revisit that. Let's get back to your younger years. That's got a toy out in the kitchen. You let's start what year and where were you born? You don't need the year, I guess, but where were you born?
75. Seattle, it's Swedish hospital.
Okay. And how long did you live in Seattle?
We lived in Queen Anne when I was born. I moved to we moved to West Seattle. That's for about 3 years, and then I moved to Falls City. I started fourth grade in Falls City, so I think it was like the tail end of third grade years. April of
Yeah. Do you have
83.
decent memories of your time in Seattle growing up this
Yeah,
way?
I have a love affair with that time in my life. It was a really good cultural time. It's like any good 80s movie. It was arcades, it was Ataris, it was like Now and Later's, 18, Knight Rider, Miami Vice,
Yeah.
like popcorn days on Thursday and sometimes pepperoni, and still love school, loved teachers, Michael Jackson's Thriller. It was like all that good, yummy, sweet 80s was really, and it was still innocent. And yeah, I guess it was the innocence about it. Like I lived in a really bad, a fairly bad neighborhood, but I never felt like it
Yeah.
because, and
It was
didn't think
bad
about it.
then or ended up being bad now that you look back at it?
No, it was always kind of crime ridden. It
Mhm.
followed the economics. It was a lot of,
Right.
it was like my family didn't have a ton, but we were probably well to do compared to some of the other families. I mean, there was some of the old like school, like third generation families that just lived in the same house. And then there was a ton of the like Southeast Asian population was huge because I was the age of the younger brothers of a lot of the people that came over from Cambodia, Laos.
Mhm.
There was a lot of Filipinos, even more than like even Chinese. Like there was some Chinese, but like it was like the other places had a lot of kids, and you were all going to the same thrift stores. You're all going to the same food banks. It wasn't a depressing thing because we were all that.
Yeah.
There was no like rich people around us. So
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
kind of nice.
Yeah, it's similar to where I grew up. I mean, there were more, some families in Othello were more well off. Oddly enough, that town, it was like almost openly pitting races against each other.
That's too bad.
I mean, the main two, there's Mexicans and, the American or the whites, Americans, the whites.
Yeah, I
Um,
gotcha. Farming community though, right?
Farming community. Most of the kids that were there were first generation born there. Most of the parents, I believe, migrated up. Um, but yeah, there's like open. I even talked to some people like later, some of the white kids, and they felt the same way. Like looking back on it, it was like they definitely were. We were taught a divide. I mean, we were friends with everybody. We were friends with the kids, but the parents kind of put that, probably more the white parents than the Mexican parents. But
It's kind of what it's what exists around you. So you're just part of your environment, much less you don't really get a chance to think that it's not right. It's how it's been done.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't anything to hear. Just parents dropping slurs and like it's just I don't know. Looking back, like I didn't think anything of it back then, but looking back on it, I was like, well,
Did you
that's
Can I ask you a quick, sorry, man, I know you're running this, but just a thought. Did you find that was less intense when you moved to the valley?
depending on the person. I think it was more. You had your racist people in the valley for sure. That were probably raised that way. People like that have lived there a long time were probably that way. Um, but West
Here-
Side
Here's why
way more progressive.
here's why I ask,
Yeah,
because when we moved from West Seattle to Falls City, like it sounds like you're describing the east side of the mountains. What you're describing sounds kind of like almost the same impression I had of the valley when I moved from where I'm at. Now I'm in the city. I'm amongst a lot of different diversity, like the most diversity you could ever expect.
yeah,
And my surname is Hispanic. So maybe that's also just the perspective I would have that
yeah.
maybe you wouldn't. But there's degrees too. So that's why I was curious what you thought. But yeah, I totally get it.
I heard it referred to as the more east you go, the more south you go
That's
in
funny.
Washington.
That's how
Yeah,
they describe Florida. They say the further north you go, the more south you are.
yeah. So, um, but yeah, I mean, there wasn't, like I said, it wasn't. We were. I was friends with. I had a Asian friend. One of my best friends is Asian. My other best friend was, Mexican. Right before I left, they were my two best friends, and I didn't. And my dad was always welcoming to whoever we wanted to come over. and everybody, like, it wasn't, I guess the racism I'm talking about isn't like you're not allowed to be with this, you're not allowed, not that kind of racism.
It's
The
a lot of the stuff
racism
that's being said
is,
behind closed doors
yeah,
is what I'm talking about. So
yeah,
they're not burning crosses in anybody's yard, but, like,
right.
they're dri
They're not lynching anybody. They're not, it's not a violent thing. It's just they had their mindset of when they were kids and how
yeah.
things were. And
Hey,
so,
and my dad, who would have probably experienced some of that, also dished it out too. There's just a generational thing, like,
yeah,
um, it's almost like a pecking order. Like, even if you thought people were, like, looking down on you, some people chose to take the opportunity to then look down on others. So
yeah.
it's more three-dimensional than just, like, white people, brown people. Like, it's got a lot. And, one thing that, and we can get off this, but I mean, one thing that's never talked about, that if you ask it, I would say anybody of color will tell you exactly. It's like the secret password into a conversation is shadeism. Because even within groups, all of them,
Hmm.
the darker you are, the less you're worth type of vibe. I've talked to every type of people under the sun, and sometimes it's worse to see people interact amongst their own people and judge them like that. It's just really weird.
Well, actually, I think there's kind of a, not that I'm speaking on it because I don't know, but from what I've heard and what I see, there's kind of a sweet spot. You can either be too light if you're ethnic, or you can be too dark if you're ethnic. If you're in that middle spot, then you're kind of good either way. Because,
You talk
not,
about appearance, but there's also code switching too. So there's also, like, how you can code switch and get how you speak, or at least how you know how to speak in
well, we
certain.
saw with Russell Wilson. He wasn't, quote unquote black enough in the
Yeah.
locker room for some of the, the other people that played. Also wasn't probably white enough for some people that, like to
So you
whiten
get,
up the sport.
yeah. So, like, in the Hispanic community, like I said, a lot of other ethnic groups too, you get even the more darker of the people, like, resenting the lighter because they can kind of, like, go into that world that shuts everyone out, but it's like you're easier to get in, so then it becomes this other thing, and then they're, like, able to go into this world that you can't, so then they start looking down on you. It's really weird. Weird's an easy cop out word, but it's really, we don't got time enough to discuss it here, but it's definitely a concept. Like, it's kind of like the bully at school, like, a lot of times is abused at home.
Hmm.
You would think these would be the people that would rise above what they do, but it's kind of what they're taught, so they kind
Yeah.
of are more likely to recycle it.
And another thing that I did notice when I moved over, especially like I guess with you and maybe Kyland a little bit, you're both, Mexican descent,
Mhm.
but I viewed you completely different than the Mexicans from Othello. You were, I don't know why. Probably because the majority of, there was so many more, Mexican kids where I grew up. So you were kind of the outliers a little bit in the valley. Not quite as many, because when I left there, it was probably 50-50 Mexican
Besides,
white.
let me interject. I would suggest, from what you're saying, probably because there was something a little more familiar. And so, besides the obvious, like, where normally it might seem different, but there was something that connected with you
Yeah.
that didn't feel,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of this, the conversations we had. And then when you start, it just goes to show, when you start talking to people and see how they come up, there's so many more things that we have alike. And it's the same country, it's the same grocery stores, it's the same this. Yes, we have different flavors, different spices, we cook a little different stuff, but, like, we were back then, especially, we were watching the three same channels. So, as I mentioned, Knight Rider and 18 before, it doesn't matter what color I am or what color you are, you can smile because you totally know what those shows were too.
Yeah. Yeah. And, just our economic, we
Yeah.
both grew up in trailer parks. Just like, well, when you moved to the valley, you were in a trailer park. That's where I met you.
Yeah.
You were living in a trailer. I lived in a trailer out in the country, but I moved from a trailer court. Um, so yeah, we do have a lot of similarities, even though our backgrounds are different. So when you moved in fifth grade, you said? Fourth grade.
I started Fall City Elementary in fourth grade.
In fourth grade. Then you moved on to SMS seventh grade.
Yeah.
What was that experience like, moving to
Yeah.
where you could combine the schools? I had this similar thing in Othello.
So, what was weird about it was that so Fall City kids were always like the the river runs down and all the garbage goes down further. So we were the river rats, which again, back to my perspective comment earlier, you
Yeah.
would think we wouldn't treat people like that, but we definitely judge people for carnation. So the further down the garbage flows down the river.
Yeah, went North Bend, Snoqualmie,
So
Fall
yeah,
City.
so we combined with Snoqualmie North Bend, and I felt like the Snoqualmie North Bend kids, like they knew of each other. Like I just felt like there was a lot of Upper Valley things they were familiar, and I didn't. The only like kid I really think I knew from North Bend was a kid that moved up there. And my friend Johnny, he moved in like up there for sixth grade, so it was like that was cool to see him. But yeah, it was all these kids. It was really intimidating. It was intimidating just new school, just being that age anyways is intimidating. And the school structure change. Instead of one class you sit in all day, you're like the got periods
Yeah.
and like you're on a schedule. And it just was like I'm so glad we went in seventh grade. I can't believe kids go in like sixth grade now. That blows me away because I barely felt ready then.
Now, getting back to you thinking that the Snoqualmie and North Bend kids may have known each other, talking with Adam on his podcast, he lived in River Bend, but they moved him to the Snoqualmie school, elementary,
Yeah.
which is strange. I didn't understand, especially it's not like he's even in town North Bend. He was like out
So
further
so
away from Snoqualmie.
yeah, so if you think of the geography though, Carl, like Snoqualmie, like not where you lived, because where you lived was kind of up a hill and like crazy. I was like, but like the main Snoqualmie town at that time wasn't what is called Snoqualmie now. You know, it was that didn't exist.
Well,
The
yeah,
ridge. So like the drive from there, from one place to the other in the Upper Valley seems like kind of just like a blink and you'll miss it. Whereas to go to Falls City, you're kind of going down Falls Hill, and then there's that fish hatchery area like Spring Glen, and then you get into Falls City, which is like four clusters of buildings, nothing really
yeah.
much there. So yeah,
I
it
mean, I
felt
guess my point is he was like the opposite side of North Bend, like further away from Snoqualmie. So I'm wondering why they redistricted him to go to
well,
Snoqualmie instead of
and you
people to
say that they
live.
had too many kids though, wasn't that the thing?
Well, yeah, but I guess I don't, I understand the reason for doing it in general, but why someone from River Bend would be moved as opposed to someone closer to Snoqualmie, but still in North Bend city limits.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know.
So,
But you know, back then too, it's changed. It's the Falls City elementary kids were basically getting kids from like Ames Lake and like Upper
mhm.
Preston almost. So those are all off limits. One, I think it's Redmond and Issaquah have pretty much taken those on. So, um,
It always seemed
it
like Preston should have been a part of the Snoqualmie Valley. Are you getting a feedback?
not now.
I keep hearing like I don't know if it's from my end or your end. Anyway, it just comes really quick. Anyway, yeah, I always felt that Preston should have been part of the Snoqualmie Valley, but it was part of Issaquah.
Makes more sense than Ames Lake.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know what's funny? When I worked at one of my jobs that did deliveries, they called that Albertsons. That used to be out there a little further down, like more towards Redmond. Used to call that Albertsons Falls City, and I used to always be like, "That's not Falls City." Like, well, that's what we call it. But it's like from my point of view, Falls City, that was almost like you're almost a Redmond. Like that was
Yeah,
more almost like a Redmond outlier.
the
Just
one that was on the right hand side as you're going towards Redmond.
yeah,
That
a little
one, yeah,
further down from M&M Market.
yeah,
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 I know all my stores by burritos, pizza pockets,
yeah. Take a left at the Pizza Pocket place. Yeah.
dude.
So what did you like? So you said you have a fondness of your Seattle time. When you did move to the Valley, were you fond of it after a while? I don't know if you,
It wasn't the cruelest place in the world, but it's the first place like I experienced like feeling like outside, which is I have high anxiety. It makes me uncomfortable, and I couldn't have called it that as a kid. But looking back, it's the first time I got like a nickname based on kind of being made fun of, and I didn't like that. All those things I told you earlier started becoming things. Like so when I said like everyone was poor and just hand to mouth, like so it didn't stand out. Now all of a sudden it stood out because there were kids in different economic groups. Thankfully, we were little kids, so it doesn't get too complex when you're a kid, but you can still feel it. It's when you show up with like the Kmart shoes and the kids make fun of it because from their point of view, why can't you just get the Nikes or Reeboks? Like
Mhm.
it's almost less bullying. It is bullying, but it was almost more like okay, you're ridiculous. Why are you wearing those corny shoes? Like I had a
Yeah.
choice.
Right.
So so that was I still liked elementary school a lot, and I definitely eventually became Derek. He's one of us, but like it was tough. I'm glad I was doing it as a kid. I am impressed that you came in middle school. That would have been a lot tougher for me.
Yeah, it wasn't an issue for me, really. I mean, the new
Sport.
kid, well, that girls like the new kid a lot. So I had girl attention right when I first moved over, which I shied away from. I didn't have any. Well, I had maybe interest, but I was too scared to even like approach that situation. So it was like,
Yeah,
no. But I would. I
same.
it was definitely there. Had girls, and sports made it way easier for me to fit in. Um, I got in like first class, like I think it was second period. I had Ryan in my first like second period science class, and from the first time we started talking to each other, we were like friends. It was like that's who I hung around with for the most part, and especially junior high. Yeah, well, all the way through school, and we're still friends.
He's a cool
So
dude. I don't know him like a ton, but he always seemed like really like raised right and good values and just like a kid that wouldn't bully the other kids. He just seemed like a good kid.
yeah, he was. We're similar but way different at the same time.
Yeah.
He was, he had a religious upbringing. Well, I did too, but not to that extent, the extent that he did.
Yeah.
I stopped going to my family stopped going to church when I moved to the valley. But up until then, it was every Sunday. Um, Cub Scouts in the church, Sunday schools, everything. Which I think surprised you when I brought that up to you earlier. That
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, but like I said, my mom went, so she just took us with her. My dad didn't go, so it wasn't like a quote unquote religious family. My dad didn't have anything to do with church. My mom did. Him growing up, their family didn't go to church. My mom's did.
But the Judeo Christian values are there,
Yeah, yeah,
even if
definitely.
they weren't linked. I mean, we that's how I grew up. My dad and my mom weren't very churchy, and I'm very glad they didn't force anything on us. Um, they'd let me spend the night at different friends' houses, and I could go to their church the next day, even if it was, different than my dad would have been Catholic, and I don't know what my mom would have been. But so they were open minded, which is good because I mean that's where my open mindedness comes from. So as much as like there's some closed minded issues, there was also a lot of open minded issues, and so
Yeah, I don't think I actually felt like we were forced to go. It was just what you did. Like,
yeah,
and we didn't like it, especially during football season, because my dad would be sitting there getting ready to watch the football games, which we all loved doing, and we had to go to church. Then Monday night was scouts, so we got to miss Monday night football
yeah.
as well. And it's like, so I didn't like that aspect of it, but like I wouldn't say I ever really felt forced to go. I guess forced without forcing it is just an expectation that you don't even question when you're young. But like I say, my mom, she never sought out a church when she moved over to the valley. She may have. I do remember maybe her going to one in Snoqualmie when we moved over, but it just never latched on. She didn't know anybody over there. We moved over for my dad's job, and
I've told you this before. One observation that I did make through my life living there is there were a lot of like Foursquare and like small churches that were like 2X hippies started, and there was like maybe like 3 or 4, maybe 8
hey,
different
Derek,
families, and there was like
it's coming from your mic, that feedback when you talk. Maybe you can cut. Is there a way for you? Are you going through a mic or just your laptop?
I am going through the mic. My fan just kicked on the laptop, so I'm wondering if
It's
that's
whenever you talk, it feels like, I don't
um
know. Do you have headphones?
I do.
Maybe you can do that. Maybe it's picking up the speaker, like maybe it's picking up the speaker, and we know how microphones and open speakers work.
Okay, hold on. Can
I just don't know how much of it would come through.
you hear me?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I don't hear the feedback, so that's
Oh,
better. Okay, cool. I know it affects your cat background, but
it's all right.
we can deal with that. I feel most people probably just listen, not really watch.
Yeah.
Um, whoever I cut you out. Oh, I just heard it again. I cut you off. What were you saying?
What I noticed when we moved over was that there was all these small like churches, but they were like, this is my perspective, but they were all younger people, maybe like ex hippie parents, and they got together with like another couple parents. And so it's these churches run by like a couple or a couple couples and like maybe 4 to 8 different families. And that, maybe they got bigger, but there was a lot of these things and I couldn't really get a handle on because I was so used to like denominations and just like you're Protestant, you're Baptist, and it's like all this like Christian fellowship stuff. And anyways, I felt like there was a lot of that in the Valley. That was something totally new to me because I was used to more like there was the one big church of this sect, one big church of this sect, and there was a temple, and there was this, and everyone just kind of went to those,
Yeah.
and they were big. So that was like something I thought was kind of odd, is where it seemed like everybody in the Valley was like, most everybody was religious, but like only some of them are connected to each other, unless you were talking about the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Seventh-day Adventist. I mean, I couldn't even tell you where there was a Catholic church in the Valley. I'm sure there was one, but I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. The only experience in any kind of church, anything that I had was with Ryan, and it was church league sports.
Yeah.
I always played, basketball, baseball, whatever, or softball, whatever they had going on, softball, whatever sport they had going on. He always invited me along. Never went to the church or anything. They never tried to get me to go to the church. But yeah, other than that, I know Nate's parents were religious. Nate's religious. Toby and his dad, they were very religious. Josh, his parents were, and Ryan was Mormon church. Toby and Nate were, Christian, whatever denomination. I think they actually went to the same church. Then Josh was Jehovah, and you and I unaffiliated for the most part.
I remember the ladies knocking on the door every once in a while. It was always ladies for the J Dubs.
Yeah.
Coming in and with the watchtower. And I remember that they were church ladies, but I don't know if they did this on purpose, but they're always like wholesomely attractive ladies. And I was like, I wonder if that's part of the marketing. But
yeah,
I also had this like weird belief that like churches were against makeup and stuff, which is totally bullshit of ignorance. I didn't know it better, but they were always wore makeup. So I always, and they were always like really friendly. And then, and we'd have missionaries come up with the Book of Mormon. And my dad actually, never talked to him about it. I don't know if he just took it and was too lazy to not have it, but he did have a Book of Mormon in one of his drawers, just like underneath next to the Bible. So I think he's just stocking up.
Do you ever have a Bible?
Yeah, I had a Bible. It was pretty cool.
I had one.
I mean, honestly, I got a Bible now. I don't know. I don't really hit it too often, but
I have one. I don't know where it's at. It's in a box somewhere. But
it's one of those things you're just kind of like, oh, I don't think I should throw this out, or don't, like, I feel like it's with me for life. Like, I got a book and books got me. Bible.
So I said I had a similar thing with schools combining, fellow, but we combined 5th, 6th grade. So we had two separate elementary schools, K through 4. Then you moved to a school called Scootney Springs, which is 5, 6.
Jesus. Then you went Springs.
Yeah, then you went middle school. Then you went junior high, which they called it over there, 7 to 8. Then high school, 9 through 12.
Wasn't that the original working title for the Little House on the Prairie, Scootney Springs?
Couldn't tell. But yeah, we had that. We had a similar thing. And so 7th grade, we knew, we knew the upperclassmen because we were there with them 5th grade. They were 6th graders. But the whole format of the school, like you said, not one class. You got to go class to class. You have a homeroom, and you got, all that kind of stuff was quite a thing. Then moving to a new school, 8th grade, and having to do that all over again, not knowing where anything in that school's at, where the teachers are. I don't know. They must have given you some kind of map maybe on your first day, I would think.
Yeah, I think so.
Then you got to do it all over again in high school.
I know for high school, there was like the there was the orientation day or something. It wasn't actually officially school day, I don't think. And we went
Yeah.
there, we got our picture taken for our ASB card. And I think we just got like our schedule, and then we had a chance to walk the school to check it out.
Yeah. That school lasted for what? 1 year before they started construction on the new one?
Thank God, man. Because if you told me the upstairs English rooms, I could still smell the summer burnt piss smell.
It's so
Oh,
bad.
man.
No
So
air
bad.
conditioning.
Hey, thank God Twin Peaks documented that school.
I was thinking that what did I say that talked to you the other day about when that one school that they showed that it burnt down in like 1961 or something like that. Then they built that new school where we went for our freshman year. And, so we went there for a year. Then they started construction on the new one when we were there. Then I remember thinking the same thing when they started constructing the new high school. I was like, it just got built, but it was like 30 years after we were there. It was like, oh,
I know.
a 30-year cycle. I guess you need a new school.
And I was kind of bummed when I went to Two Rivers. Was right when I think did that new school open your senior year or your junior year? Senior.
I think officially, I mean, there were some parts of it. I think senior year was, yeah.
So my point being is I was bummed because I went there for the old school. I went there during the first year of construction, and then I didn't get to reap the benefits. Because, I mean, when they first opened it up, I thought it was a pretty slick looking place. I remember thinking like the checkered floors in the lunchroom. Like, oh, dude, this is pretty cool. And I was like, oh, shit, man, I would have probably liked this building. Like, but then
I sort of experience it musically later on. the one room anyway.
Yeah.
Thinking back, I don't understand why they didn't do that show in the auditorium instead of taking the railing off of the upper walkway.
I think control, like there was less points of wandering that could happen, I think, and they could kind of keep it contained. Because there's a lot of, if you thought, you could probably get in a little bit of, plus that auditorium, I think for its time was pretty like dialed in acoustically for like different type of music. And I don't think they wanted a bunch of kids potentially messing that up.
Yeah. So I was going to move forward and ask you about band stuff, but let's go back. I asked people on here your first album that you bought with your own money or that somebody bought for you that you remember.
So besides the hand-me-downs, besides all the like Sesame Street and all the like little kids records, the first like pop rock, the first record was actually a record, and it was Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, because I was just in love with Money for Nothing. And my mom, I think, did the Columbia thing, and I think she got
a conversation about Money for Nothing not too long ago.
Yeah, those lyrics. So like, I think my mom like did the 11 for a penny or whatever. So she did whatever. Her and my dad split up, and they had the extra record, and they're like, well, Derek can pick one. And I was like, oh, how generous. I picked that album. And then the first cassette I got was Huey Lewis and the News Sports.
Nice.
Because this kid named Sam Ryerson brought it to school in the 4th grade in Falls City. And I remember listening to like the harder rock and roll, and I was like, oh, these songs are all good. And I was like, I want that record. Yeah. And then
so fourth grade is around the first time where you actually picked out your own.
Yeah, that both those albums would have been around that time. So I think I got the record first, but it's those two flip-flop. I don't know.
Yeah. So growing up in your house, I know a little bit. Your house, there's some music being played.
Yeah,
a lot of music.
Yeah, especially on the weekend when everybody was off. Like my mom and my dad listened to a lot of oldies and a lot of old country, and my dad also had this thing for like mariachi music and stuff. So we had a lot of that going. But my mom and dad, definitely. My mom is probably the right age to have been a hippie, but like she definitely gravitated towards generation before. So both my parents were more like 50s minded teenagers, right? So my mom's like a huge Elvis fan. But we had like Roy Orbison and the Everly Brothers and Johnny Cash and a bunch of old country stuff, Waylon Jennings, they were huge in that. My mom and dad didn't listen to his pinch of the Beatles. My mom actually didn't like that, like maybe almost hated the Beatles.
My dad too.
Yeah, just didn't like the accent. Yeah, just wasn't their thing. My mom would have graduated in 1967, so that's what I'm saying. She should have been like the Beatles person, but she liked that. She was more Beehive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My mom graduated in 60. Oh, let me think. 62. My dad graduated in 59.
that's crazy.
Yeah. When you and I play those age games once in a while, it's kind of funny to like if someone was your age now and the year you were born, what year would they have been born in?
Okay,
And like,
so I think I texted this to you the other night just random. I was watching the VMAs last night, and I saw like they did the Aussie tribute. So the VMAs have always skewed young. So like Joe Perry and Steven Tyler come out, and this is supposed to be like this thing, and I'm like, God, they were like they were on their comeback when we were young, like, and I'm like, and then I started crunching the numbers. I'm like, you know what that would have been like? That would have been like us watching the original VMAs with Eddie Murphy or Dan Aykroyd and Bette Midler hosting, and like for the special like tribute, they bring out like Al Jolson and Bing Crosby. And when you think of it
we
that way,
wouldn't
you're
have
like,
cared. Nah,
well,
we
I
might
think
have.
in some ways less things have changed musically in that same amount of time. Like it's still rock and roll, like to a point, but it's just age is weird.
Yeah,
So
like
yeah, those, yeah,
like when I think about the bands because to me, like classic rock when we were high school definitely aged. Like you could tell it was old. You could tell it was, 30 years old, blah, blah, blah. When I hear stuff when we were in high school, it still sounds fine, still sounds fresh. It doesn't seem like it's dated. But I asked my kids, I said, can you tell this is old? Like, oh yeah. Yeah, it sounds like,
but kids do the same thing we did then. Like I remember kids in our grade like wearing Led Zeppelin shirts. So let a kid wear a Nirvana shirt. I get it.
yeah.
Because there was some of that music I thought was really good too, where you're like, gosh, I wish this music was current. This Led Zeppelin's pretty cool. This Rolling Stones is pretty cool. So, but I think music's coming back. It's weird. Like, I think if you listen to pop music now, there's a lot of 80s in there right now. And it's its own thing, but it makes more sense to me than the 2010s. Maybe the late 2000s, like music. Like now it's something I'm like, I can relate. And the kids seem to be different too. They almost seem to be closer to us than like kids like young, like that were closer to our age because like, I don't know. They're into like the cassettes. Records are back.
Yeah.
Like they think some of our old media and technology is cool. Like,
Yeah.
It's just weird.
So that was the music that was listened to. When did you start becoming interested in playing?
My dad had a guitar and he'd always play it and I always watch him and just thought that was the coolest thing. And I wanted to be a performer. I always had fantasies and imagination when I was a kid and I'd watch TV and I just wanted to do something that was like basically pop culture. And when music came around, my dad had the guitar that started being something I could identify with. And I wanted to play. In sixth grade, we had a guitar course, which I flunked. And I was really mad about it. So I told my dad I wanted to learn how to play guitar. And he kind of didn't, I don't know if he didn't take me seriously or whatever. He was kind of like, well, it's there, just, play it. And I remember sitting there with the commercials and the TV and like not knowing shit, but I'd play and I'd just be like, and I just like, if I could get a note to kind of sound like it blended in, I'm like, well, it kind of sounds good. And I think my dad saw that and was like, okay, maybe there's something here. So my dad taught me my first like cowboy chords and started me out. And then from there,
love affair.
Yeah, he could only teach me for so long. He got me on the basics, man. And like I remember one time it was cool. I wanted to learn how to play Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison. And my dad actually helped me out. Like he's like, hey, I'll show you how to play that riff. And he figured it out. And it's probably the last time we could do that because my music that I liked and that was of our time was way beyond his skill level. Like, which would have been like 80s hard rock, and guitar wise. So once I started going that direction, it was about the guitar magazines. And just I started geeking out on all that stuff, like tablature books. And
are you self-taught completely? Besides your dad, whatever.
Yeah, man, I'll give credit to this though, like because a lot of people are like, dude, if you're self-taught, how come you like write string charts and stuff like that? They don't get that. So I just paid attention when we learned the recorder in fourth grade. I remember Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge and FACE, like, and then I did drums. Like I never lost that musical language where maybe some other kids just thought it was corny and didn't retain it. So when I was able to do my own learning, I was able to fuse that. And so on my own, I was able to kind of come up with like my musical training that way, but I never lost. So technically those were lessons that weren't self-taught, right? When you go to band. So I just retained that stuff, and I'm glad I did.
So you were in band. How long were you in school band?
4th grade through probably the year you showed up, because we weren't in band together, and I know you were in band. So I think 7th grade was last year.
I was in band first semester, 7th grade, or first semester, 8th grade.
Yeah, I don't remember 8th grade. I think I switched to choir. So 4th grade, and I was a drummer, and I was 5th grade. Sorry, 5th, 6th, 7th, and then choir. I switched over to choir class.
So we didn't start actual band. Let me think. Was it 5th grade? 5th and 6th is when we started actual.
Same.
Yeah. 4th grade was like the recorders and the.
God, our parents.
He also had something like this little harp thing that he would play, and you would just hold down these little buttons, and it's
called an auto harp.
Yeah. He taught us how to play that. Our band teacher in 4th grade.
I think every music class had one of those sitting there. In our music class in Falls City, I don't know, I guess it was in the budget. They bought like a little Yamaha Portasound, like from '84, with that.
Oh yeah.
But dude, she actually, it was popular, and kids always wanted to play it. And she's like, well, if you show up a little early before school starts, I'll let you come in. And we'd take numbers, and I'd be in line, and we each got 5 minutes, and I would show up like 7:30, like way early, so I could have time with the synthesizer.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
We had a little Casio that did the same thing.
Same. Yeah.
The little Casio keyboard. So once you started going on guitar, when did you actually start feeling comfortable to actually play with somebody or in front of somebody besides like your parents?
Maybe within that year, but I wasn't good.
I'm assuming your dad's guitar was an acoustic?
No, we had an acoustic, but I still have it. It's a 60s Gaiatone from Japan.
And I'm so glad I was sitting down for that statement that you still had it. You don't get
it. Sorry. Yeah. So I have it. It was beautiful. Basically ES 335 copy. Yeah. Gold foil pickups. None of that mattered then. It was just electric guitar. Once he knew I was in like 7th grade, maybe 6th to 7th grade. So about a year, for my dad to feel comfortable, like, okay, this kid's going to do something with this, he went and bought my first guitar. So we went to Sears down on First Avenue, which is now the Starbucks building. We went to the basement. We didn't buy it in the regular. We went down to the basement because that's where the bargains were. We were on a budget. Yeah. And I think it was like $79, $89, and got it with a quote unquote case, which was just a gig bag. It was a Dean Z autograph, Dean. And what I loved about that guitar was my dad liked it because it was shaped like a Stratocaster, which my dad liked. Had a heavy ass chrome pick guard, but the headstock had the pointy BC Rich kind of style pointed down. And to me, that was the right thing. So it was almost more about that than anything else. It had this weird lacquered white neck, didn't stay in tune. Dean at that point was making guitars in Korea that weren't good. So it wasn't the best guitar, but it looked more the part for a kid in 1986, 87.
Yeah.
Than my dad's. And I still have that guitar too.
Oh man, so many revelations coming from this book.
Yeah, so I have that guitar, and then I played that, and my brother had my old snare drum and kind of like a skin covered tambourine that we used kind of as a bass drum. And then my dad got us at a pawn shop for, I don't know why, I bought a hi-hat, clutch, stand, and everything. And so we used that kind of as a makeshift trap kit. We had this friend of ours lived down the street, this Mormon guy named Dave, and he was this old like rocker from like the 70s, but he had like become part of the church, chilled out, and he worked real hard. And I think he met my dad, learned we played music, and he way outplayed us, but I think he came up, just get away from the 6 kids, take a break. And I probably learned more things from him as far as like what he could teach me made more sense to where I was at that point than what my dad could teach me. Yeah. And so he taught me a lot. He brought up a lot of classic rock songs that he would have known that I probably wouldn't discover on my own. So I owe him a lot. And that's the first time I was learning how to kind of play with people. Okay.
Who was the first other kid that you played with besides your brother?
I think you told me his name. I can't remember his name, man. It was Eric. Somebody, and you told me I don't even know who he was taking lessons from, but I remember, I think that's the kid. And I think so. Yeah. It's so long ago, but I remember we were guitar buddies. So I would pack my like guitar magazine collection, which at that time could fit in a garbage bag.
Mhm.
And his mom was probably like, "What the fuck's this kid doing?" And I bring my guitar over and spend the night. And we were like, I remember we would play Great White, House of Broken Love, and it was cool because we trade off guitar licks. And so that was the first guy. Like that was the guy. And uh, he was selling his guitar, which was a generic Polaris, but it was like looked real similar to my Yamaha that I had selling groove.
Mhm.
Because he was going to get something in Ibanez or something really cool. And this guitar stayed in tune and sounded better, had an EMG pickup. So I went to my dad and I was like, "Hey, he's selling. He'll sell it to us for $100." And of course, my dad's like, "You got a guitar. I bought you that guitar like a summer ago, 2 summers ago."
Mhm.
And it sucks because you got to try to explain to your dad like the shittiness of a guitar that he thought was cool that he bought you
Right.
so you can get another guitar. And he was working, he had his gas station business at the time, so we had money. So like we worked the deal with the parents, and that was my new guitar. And that's the one I played in Sailing Groove, not Sailing Groove, in Subidral too, like up into Subidral, which was my first band. And that guitar was a Super Strat, way cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's bounce forward a little bit. Sabidra, that was your first band?
That was my first band.
How did that
It was,
form?
I worked at the Salish Lodge, my first real job, washing dishes. Matt Downs was there. And I knew Matt Downs. Matt Downs is a cool guy. I loved a million. You think I like a whole bunch of different types of music? Matt Downs likes even more. And so we always talked music, man. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm a drummer." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to start a band." And I was always like, "Start a band." He's like, "Yeah." And then we'd be like, "But how do we do that? Like, who we need a singer.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
need a," and I think maybe Chris Bacon knew of Kian and told like us or told Matt, since I was his brother, like, "Hey, I think this guy named Kian plays bass." Well, Kian was a houseman at Salish, and he did. Kian Peterson played bass, but he was just starting out, and we were like, "We don't care. Let's
Mhm.
just do it."
Yeah.
And then it was like, "We need a singer," and he was like, "Well, I went to school with this guy named BJ Net," and so Kian and BJ are both graduated already, and I think I'm a sophomore. So I mean, they're a lot
Yeah.
older than us. And so we all meet and we started rehearsing at Kian's place, and man, and none of us had other options. We just had each other, and we were all in, and it was brotherhood, and it was great. And the older guys kind of looked after the younger guy. I was the youngest guy, and we were all treated equal. I mean, it wasn't like BJ and Kian weren't like way older, so they looked
Mhm.
down on us. Probably musically, I was probably the most advanced out of all of them. So like I
Yeah.
can't think that helps me pave my own way.
Yeah.
And that's when we played the show together. That's the band that played the hi-fi with Sailing Groove.
How did that come about for you? Do you remember?
Yeah, Darren Williams was a big like friend of mine, and we invited him to a couple practices down in Redmond, and so he knew we played, and I think he was part of that hi-fi thing. They're putting the show on. He's like, "Hey man, we're putting a show on. Need some bands. You want to play?" And we're like, "Yeah." And I didn't even know your band existed, to be honest with you, man. I remember hearing about Undertow and 1007 and the infamous flyer that was made that said "and special
Yes.
guests,"
Yeah.
because I didn't know the name, and all I heard was Josh. It was Josh Rustell's band,
Mhm.
and your name came up maybe, and I was like, "Oh," and Josh is a guy that's probably the other guy that was like really smoking guitar player, same age. And me and Josh were friendly and all, but there was also kind of this competition probably because he's the other guy. And
Yeah.
so it was cool. It's like, "Oh, we'll play with Josh's band. That makes sense." Because me and Josh, I was cutting class. I assumed he might have been, but maybe he wasn't. But we'd go to the big music room in Mount Si, and we'd have our guitars, and we'd just basically play them because, like, after lunch, there were no more music classes. That was kind of a dead end of the construction of
Mhm.
down there, so you could kind of hide out.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how we got in the music room, but we were able to. Clay, he was friends with Clay, and Clay would kind of hang out and just watch us play. And so there was that connection there.
Yeah. Huh. I so then we get to the part where we try to figure out how you joined
Boy,
Silent Group.
me and you were friendly at this point because of the Ryan Cox thing.
Yeah.
And so like we kind of were developing our friendship, I think, independent of the music, but that was something we shared. And I think you said, like, I think you asked me if I'd be interested. And I don't know if you told me the whole situation or if I said, "Hey, well, what about Josh?" And somehow you did convey that it was amicable. What's the word? Like
Amicable.
amicable split, where it's like he was going to go play with this other band. And so like, I'm not taking anyone's spot. no ill
Yeah.
will, which was cool. And it's like, yeah, it's a perfect deal. Like, because when we played with you guys, like Toby was such a phenomenal young drummer, and he was
Mhm.
just a lot more advanced than kind of what we're used to. Because Sabidro was a lot of beginners, you know, and I was like really excited to like play with that drummer because he was just a Doogie Howser of the drums.
Yeah.
He's just a
Um,
gifted kid.
what was the demise of Sabidril, if you don't mind getting into it, if you don't want me to?
Just no, I just will say this: me and BJ wanted to continue. Kian would have continued. Um, I think we were just trying to rethink the whole thing, and we just couldn't really put a plan together on what that would look like. Like, we were motivated, but we just didn't put the gumption in behind it. And so you ended up kind of like just this space where we weren't doing anything.
Mhm.
And back then, it felt like it was years or months, and it really was probably only like a month because, you know, real similar, Carl, to like, not to jump ahead, but to like how Sailing Groove kind of just puttered out.
Yeah.
Just similar but different. Just
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it's like you were gonna continue, but then it's just you're on your own. You're like, well, I want to continue. What's that look like? Oh, cool. You guys need a guitar player? I'll join your band.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't think there was much of a time gap from when Josh left to when you joined. I don't think there was that much at all.
Nope.
The wounds were still fresh. It was kind of amicable, like you say, but well, I will say because he quit. He quit. We didn't kick him out. The only issue that we kind of really had was who was taking what music with them and who wasn't. And so we had a little
Yeah.
me and him had an argument about that, but over the phone. But other than that, there was nothing. Yeah, it was pretty
Which
clean.
worked great for me, man, because I want to just write new stuff. Like, you know, so like I was a writer coming up, and so like however that got settled, we didn't really have any songs left over when I came in, so it was just starting from new, I think, for most part, and I preferred that. I wouldn't have wanted to play his songs. That wouldn't have felt right. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you guys figured that out before.
So now we can get into some juicy stuff. Um, the Salient Groove years and post. Um, so
Well,
Salient Groove, with you. So we were trying to think Nate and I of how many shows that Salient Groove with Josh played, and I think it was only two.
I just remember you telling me about the March of Dimes show.
Yeah, the March of Dimes and the Hi-Fi were the two with Josh. But with you, how many do you remember?
Well, the first one would have been that Mount Si barbecue.
Okay, that was our 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then we would have played the Hi-Fi the next year. We also had Twin Peaks days and Snoqualmie days. So there's 4.
Yeah, those are both Snoqualmie, right? Twin Peaks and Snoqualmie.
They're
Yeah,
both the
because
same
I
stage.
never played North Bend. Yeah,
So there's 4. Yeah.
four shows out of that whole, which seems like a
I know
band
it
that was
feels like there should be
together forever.
just feels like there should be a 5th one. But I think after that second Hi-Fi, that was like senior year, and Nate went to school, and
Yeah, and
I know
you had your
me
side.
and you. Well, me and you had talked about like kind of continuing something, but like there's just a lot going on, man. I mean, you were finishing school too, and then you kind of. I remember like the dynamic changed. Like I remember like me and you hung out a lot, but I remember like from my perspective, like kind of when you started working at the pizza place, and then you started having kind of this other set of friends that I wasn't really part of. So like we didn't hang out as much, but I had met your brother and he was musical and I had the 4-track and we did the recordings. And so we started just kind of more of as an innocent, just buddies hanging out doing music.
Yeah,
And then it just, our lack of really putting anything together in space and just things happening. And then me and Chad, I don't know how exactly that had happened, but I know the thing with Eric is we must have heard that Silt broke up or something, or Eric was available. And so I don't know if I went and tried to recruit Eric to play with him and then needed a bass player, which is probably what happened, and was playing with Chad. Like, hey, Chad, we need a bass player, which is probably the reason I didn't talk to you because I was just thinking of filling the gaps.
yeah,
And I didn't think of it being the original thing we had discussed doing. Like at this point, I was just starting something new. And I was just thinking guitar player, singer, me. That's what I do. He plays
yeah,
drums, he plays bass. There's our band. That was a Stevolence, and that played with Sailing Groove / show.
yeah.
We did the Hi-Fi together.
Okay.
And that
So
show was the green too, that last one, right?
I
Yes.
don't remember that show. I remember doing it. I remember seeing. Yeah, that's probably
No,
the
no, it's
green.
the green.
Okay.
because I remember after the show, I met those guys. We were talking. I was saying, "Hey," talking about a Stevlins. I'm like, "Hey, I'm Derek," and they had a Derek. I'm like, "And I got an Eric too," and they had an Eric, and it was like, "Hey, cornball stuff."
Yeah. Okay, so Esteblance was a three-piece. Then I don't remember how it got.
Because
I
we
don't
wanted
know how,
another guitar player.
just another guitar player.
And I was thinking he was a guitar player at that point because we were already trying to get another singer, which was
Okay.
Brian Lazarus. And
Oh,
that
okay.
lineup played that birthday party. It was Brian, you on guitar, me on guitar,
Yeah.
Chad and Eric.
So Brian was in the conversation before I joined.
I just think getting a singer. I think I thought of you as like me, like we sang out of necessity. Like you had a great voice, like, and I had a great voice, but I thought like we were the guitar players that sang because we didn't have a singer. And so I thought like in this band, like if we had a singer, that would be the way to go.
Yeah.
It's a way to go. I don't know. I was just thinking singer. I wasn't trying to bypass either of us. I guess on my part, I kind of already made the decision I didn't need to sing, and I just assumed you'd be with me. I don't know. I just saw us being friends, hanging out, playing guitar, not realizing what your wishes might have been, and maybe you weren't thinking of yourself as a guitar player, but I did. I didn't really think to ask.
Yeah.
Maybe I
So we
should
ended
have.
so we ended up Brian didn't work out. Um
Yeah, we did one show. He didn't work out, and so then however it came about that you would sing.
yeah, I would be the singer, then we
I
wanted
don't know
to
if that
get
was
another
our
guitar
great
player.
idea or if that was just you putting yourself out there. And then, okay, well, how do we replace? I think the same idea was there. Like, well, okay, fine, but second guitar player because I don't think you were big on playing guitar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, especially after the decision was going to be made that I was going to sing. I didn't want to sing and play guitar.
yeah.
Um
So instead of finding a replacement vocalist for Brian, which was just one show, now we need a replacement guitar player for you.
yeah.
And
And I knew Adam was
and I heard
really
Adam
new.
played.
Yeah. He was new.
He didn't want to
Um
do it.
nope. He had no
And I was like, dude, if he can do it somewhat, I was like, I got a wing room for it under him.
yeah.
And I was like, just because I was just like, he seemed like a cool guy. Adam always seemed cool. And I was like, yeah, I was more like he would gel. Like, we'll get the
Mhm.
skill up there.
Yeah.
And I didn't imagine the skill was as bad as Adam was selling it. Like, Adam's like, oh, what, made it sound like he was the worst guitar player in the world. And he could do stuff. Like, it was
Mhm.
just seasoning him. And, I don't know. I never knew Adam like too much, but kind of like in some ways he did kind of now looking back as an older person, like maybe he was a little bit of an introvert. We were really forcing him out there.
Oh, I think
But
that's definitely the case, especially musically.
yeah, that's high anxiety. And I didn't even think about that, but I'm glad he came on, to do it.
Yeah.
And, so there we had our five.
Yeah. For a little while, but that we were practicing out at my parents' place, from what I remember. No, we did some at your place. Then we did some at my place. I remember out in the living room practicing there. For
We could do your house during the days. So
yes, yeah, during the
I was
day.
going to Two Rivers still, like I was still going to high school.
Yeah,
So there were days where I had free time and we could do the days at your place.
yeah. So then we get to, I think our visions of music direction took a split a little
Yeah,
bit.
apparently we weren't all on what they call the same page,
No.
which is fine. It
um,
happens.
yeah, and it has been a sore spot for us, more
I think
so because of how we did it.
it's been a perspective thing. I think what came to more light recently in our private discussions is just that. So what I've come to terms with is, so you guys had decided that I needed to not be in the band anymore.
Yeah.
And I felt like the way that was done, it felt like such a betrayal of like just friendship,
Mm-hmm.
like more than band. And I kind of had some issues because that conversation that you had in Sound Groove came up here where it's like, you guys are going to still play songs that I wrote or had a heavy hand in. And I didn't think that was cool. And probably a lot of it was because the way it was being done. I mean, if there would have been maybe handled a different way, maybe I'd be more hyped, like, yeah, oh yeah, keep playing those songs. That's cool. But I
Yeah.
was at that point, I was just really spiteful. And the way you guys picked up the gear, which we discussed, so there's just a lot of elements about it.
So do a time frame for me real quick before you get too further into that. Because you haven't heard Chad's yet. I just posted it. We were trying to figure out if us taking the equipment out of your place happened before the phone call with you and him, or was it? Did you call him because you saw the gear gone? Because I don't remember.
Well, I remember the call because I was working at Famous Brands. That was the call that you go in a different direction. I
Yeah.
assumed the equipment pickup was after, but now that you're saying that Chad thinks it was before, or
No, Chad thinks it was after as well,
oh, I think it was after too.
and I thought it was before, and that's how you figured out that we weren't together anymore.
No, yeah. So we had the call. Just leave it at that. The call, and but how would that have worked? So now you got me wondering because like there was a call where I thought the stuff had gotten taken, and I reached out to you guys, and that maybe did that end up actually being the call?
I don't know.
Too?
Maybe the discussion, maybe the call happened, and we didn't. I think we felt it would be awkward for you being there and us unloading all the equipment while you were there. So I think in our teenage brain, let's just go over there when nobody's home and unload equipment when the house owners aren't there. So
It
that's
would
what we
have been.
did. And
It would have been awkward. It would have been awkward, but
yeah,
yeah. So here's where I'm at. The one way is awkward. Depending on how you handle it, is how the stuff that matters, the friendships go on. If it's handled okay, because there's no winners. This situation wouldn't have been because I started that band and I felt a little remiss that like I was being left behind. Like fucking, this is what I started with Eric and
yeah.
Chad. Like, just start your own band. Like, so I'm not gonna lie and be like there wouldn't have been some sort of probably like little bit of resentment,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever. But like for the French, because I feel like it kind of just the friendships got quelched after that.
Mm-hmm.
We had some like pleasantries, like when you'd run into each other, but it was never the same.
No.
And yeah, so we've gone over it privately. We don't have to go over two-tone here, but that I was really upset at you guys because, and here's how I'll just give you my side of it. I looked at it this way. I felt like back in the day, Chad was musical before me for sure, but I felt like I was really like giving him an outlet to come down and record, and we were buddies, and I thought we had this friendship.
Yeah.
And I was, so there was that investment in him on my part. And so there was betrayal there. You had been my friend forever. And I thought I was really the big spokesman, like, dude, yeah, bring Carl in. I didn't realize that you also had your point of view on maybe you had felt left behind. And there's this other part of your feelings. I didn't realize that at the time. So I thought surprised by that too.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, I felt like I was a huge proponent in getting in, and he was barely there and like not like, still trying to learn the guitar parts. And I was like, well, what's this guy kicking me out for? Like, this guy barely's here. And then Eric was like Eric, I thought was my friend too. And Eric's always like, haha, making dumb jokes, light and funny. And I'm like, this guy, like, it seemed out of character for everybody and didn't make any sense to me. Like, because the way it had happened, it felt like your annoyance on things and differences between us musically felt like they manifest themselves into some sort of resentment towards me, because it did kind of feel like you guys were taking a piss. It wasn't just like, this is awkward, we got to do it. Like, the way it was handled is like, dude, my feelings aren't really fucking mattering to you guys. And that was the bummer.
So the unloading of it was completely the awkwardness of it. It wasn't, fuck this guy, I don't care about his feelings. That's not what that was about. The kicking you out portion of it was, I don't care. He's annoying me during practice. He's doing stuff that I don't want to be doing. No, I can't remember if it was Adam that I was saying this to, but I felt you were a mentor to me, musically. You were, when we were in Silent Groove together. And to me, telling you what you're playing isn't grooving with me, and I don't want you to be doing it, felt odd to me to do that. And I didn't feel comfortable telling you what to and what not to play. So that approach to me was off, and I didn't feel like I could, because you're way better guitar player than I am. You taught me a lot about writing music. So that approach to me wasn't plausible in my teenage brain. I'm not going to tell this guy who's way better than me what to play and what not to play. I'm going to let this annoyance build up until let's get him out of here. He's good. He can figure out something else to do. That part of it, I didn't really care about your feelings at that point. Because in my head, I was resentful. I was getting resentful for just because I wasn't able to voice and discuss properly like an adult.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Wasn't there also, from a previous conversation, wasn't there also maybe a slight, I don't want to say chip, but you kind of came in armed a little bit because what I wasn't aware of is there was a little bit of like, well, fuck Derek, he's starting this band and we were supposed to keep like our thing going. Like, even though that wasn't my intention, was there also kind of, you had that baggage a little bit too of like,
I
maybe
don't
like, okay, maybe not.
I don't think so. I don't think
Okay.
like he went on without me. Here's my chance to get back at him. Is that kind
Well,
of what you're saying?
not like A equals B equals C as much as just like feelings that you were carrying that were just conveniently there when it was time to do this move. But
Subconsciously, maybe, but I not on the surface. That wasn't a reason. I just know I started wanting to do different music. Um, Chad, I think, kind of wanted to do a little heavier stuff. I felt you were still doing stuff that we were doing in Silent Groove, the stuff that I thought was funny back then. As I was getting a little older, I wanted it to be a little more serious. But like I said, I just you would do it, and I would just let it build up. I wouldn't say anything. Wouldn't say anything.
you
I
know
think
what's
some
funny?
what's up?
It's like that's how you viewed it. But to me, like the like that stuff was like fucking Chad's burps. It's shit that none of us fucking liked, but we almost like laughed about it. It was like it was the funny thing. And you guys always laughed. Like, and the annoyance like felt like kind of like fake annoyance, like, oh god, the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Yeah,
wasn't on my radar that was driving anybody nuts where you're like, fuck this guy. Like, I just thought like it was whatever. Like I said, that was like my nacho burps.
yeah. And it wasn't only that. It wasn't only that. It was like I think the fact that you weren't singing also when there was dead spots or not dead, but there's room for the song to breathe with just rhythm guitar playing. I wasn't singing. It seemed like every time a part of the song would be like that, you would start doing lead, even though it wasn't the spot where the lead was. So when we talked about, or when Eric, we were talking off, on our own conversation where Eric said, yeah, they didn't want to do leads anymore, but they went out and got a guy that plays lead. It wasn't, we didn't want leads. We felt you were putting leads where they didn't need to be. And again, you played better than I. I'm not going to tell you what to play and what not to play. I'll just not be in the band anymore. Not be with you
Yeah,
in the
well,
band anymore.
it's unfortunate because like it's just. I mean, I get it, but it's just
Yeah.
unfortunate because like I mean, we really did kind of all go our separate ways at that point until Eric got let go, and that kind of like helped the forgiveness because like now it's like, you know what it feels like. Okay, then I can't be mad at you anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't get why, like, oh, parts of me aren't good enough for you, but then parts of me are, like, because initially you guys, even if you had the intentions to write your own stuff, which I'm sure you did, initially you still wanted to play like Mine and some of these other songs, and it's like, and I get Mine was a Chad bass line, but like I wrote all those other riffs on it, and I was trying to think of some other examples, and that was like that's where I got the disconnect. Where it's just like, well, fuck you guys. So I mean, you either get me in my songs or you don't get me and you don't get my songs, and that extra prickiness, and you're kind of scot free on this because it was a phone call with Chad
Mm-hmm.
handled it all,
Yeah.
and which maybe if it would have been you on that phone, maybe it would have been a little softer.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Was it as cold as Chad made it sound? Well,
And yeah,
you're at
he
the
talks about it.
disadvantage. You're at the disadvantage of how he said it because he said it on the
Oh,
podcast.
it was really cold. It was like, who, dude, you were my friend like yesterday, and like today you're talking to me like I'm a piece of trash, and you're just like, just get out of my way. You're impeding our success, little pissant. And well, I was like, well, I'll still play my songs. Well, that's dumb. We can't have two bands doing that because we're gonna play them too. And that whole fucking and they're fucking songs that no one plays to this day. So it's kind of a dumb argument, right? But the heat of
Yeah.
the moment. Plus, I was a fucking work, maybe on a break, maybe not. I forgot, but I was on a work where I couldn't really get into it. And I'm sure that was great for Chad because I'm sure he didn't want to spend any much longer. He got the message out.
Mm-hmm.
Which proud of Chad. I didn't know he had that shit in him, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, because he was always, to me, the quiet brother.
Yeah.
But fuck, go Chad.
I think this is where the timing of the two kind of get because he was saying that I think you were calling him about a potential show that we could have that you had on the line,
That sounds
and
familiar.
he said,
Okay.
"Well, before you go any further, you're out," type of a deal. then
That might be accurate. I mean, I'm sure it is accurate. It sounds familiar.
see this where it feels weird because I wasn't a part of any of that. I wasn't a part of that conversation, so I
You
don't
weren't even in the
know.
room when I talked to him,
No,
huh?
no,
Huh. I mean, not that
no.
I thought you were sitting in the corner going, yeah, but I just
Now, a reason that it may have been him because I came in late. I was a late comer to that band. He was one of the original three, so it would have been even weirder for me to maybe do it.
maybe.
I be honest,
Yeah.
I don't remember the conversation on who's going to do it and why and blah blah blah.
It
But
hurt my feelings a lot, man. And it came from people that I thought were like my close friends at that time. Like, I think my old school friend that I always had was Joe Pullman, and he was still there. But other than Joe, it was you. Like,
yeah,
and it had become Chad and Eric. And, I had more of just this like, hey man, we're the kids from the high school that got in a band together and we're sticking together. And so I guess I never thought that I could have done anything to like get me blacklisted. And especially without like a warning, because we had a meeting like before that had happened, like a month before, where I thought we had kind of worked it out, but apparently it wasn't. So
I don't remember that meeting. What
it
was?
was it.
Do you remember
It was
the topic?
it was at Rob's house.
I definitely don't remember the meeting.
There's one thing I could probably tell you that might make you remember it, but I don't know if I want to go into that here. But I mean, you can edit it out. But I think I think that meeting is where you had expressed that it
That
really,
was where I cried.
yeah,
That I never felt welcome. I never felt
that's
welcomed by you.
that's where I was getting that thing from earlier, where like you had kind of maybe a misconception, accurate to your misconception of what I was trying to put out there. That's not what
Yeah.
I was about, but I can't argue if that's how you felt.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I thought that was all the shit. Like, okay, cool. Okay, now we move on. Because there was some shit brewing for sure. So when I say I felt kind of like blindsided, and maybe someone else's point of view, like, yeah, but dude, we had the meeting the month before, things weren't going good. I'd be like, yeah, but I thought that hashed it all out. I didn't realize. And so maybe it wasn't a strong enough case about the things that were annoying you guys. Maybe, hey, you need me to be more serious or something. And I'm sure that was talked about to some point, but maybe I just didn't get exactly what degree. I just remember I just kind of had the sense that this unconditional love sense, like we're just going to do it until we don't do this anymore. Cause we're the buds, we stick together. Like it was more about friendship than the other. Because honestly, dude, if you guys would have wanted to go in a different direction, which would have been the wise thing to do because we were different, I probably still wouldn't have taken it. I still would have felt like, oh, you guys are leaving me, but it would have been different. I think it would have been different. That would have been more like, because you guys would have started your own thing. It feels different than getting kicked out of the thing you started.
Yeah.
Like,
so
yeah, go ahead.
I think that's where I have that disconnect. When you do see pictures of like Chad, myself, Adam, and Tim, to me that's a totally separate band. Even though Chad, me, Adam, we're in that band, but completely different songs. None of the influence of what we did was still there.
I agree.
We went totally heavy. So when you get a little, I think we're okay now. But when you would see those pictures, it would bring back that memory for you of getting booted from that band. But in my point of view, that wasn't the same band. It was a different.
Let me correct you. This might make it seem clear. It's not quite that. It's those guys in that band, not you now, just those two guys. Those are the representation of those fucking guys that were dicks to me. That's why it fucking irritates me. Dicks, and the thing that they thought like I wasn't good enough for, their next step, and that picture's their next step. So it's like, it's who you were then, and it's what I wasn't good enough for you for. That's why the picture impacts me. It's not because like, that's my band minus me. No, because Eric's not in it either. Yeah. So if that makes a little more sense, it's capturing a moment in time that's still like, because I didn't go support you guys. I didn't really want anything to do with you guys. Not because you hadn't moved on by that time, just because I still felt like you were the guys that betrayed me.
And what you're saying right there is a misconception on your part of you're not good enough.
I get it, but that's with no other answers. That's
right.
Well, and I'm confident. I knew I was like good at what I do. I just didn't understand like what had happened to fall out of favor. Like kind of like you feel like your parent like is disappointed in you or isn't proud of you. It's kind of like that because your family at that point, your friends. That's how I've always treated friends, and that's where it rubbed me so raw. Like, and I'm probably really emotional about things in general.
Mhm.
Loyalty is huge for me. You know, dude, and you know from being friends with me that I'm a class warrior. I sometimes have chips on my shoulder I shouldn't have about people I don't know anything about because I already have like, oh, rich people and poor
Yeah.
people and this and that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of who I am to a fault. So like if I don't have the answers, I'll definitely start filling in for my vocabulary of things in my life that have been held against me. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't mean that's what you guys meant. And they're just space fillers until like conversations happen later where you can kind of understand where the other person. And sometimes two things are true at the same time. Your perception is as real as your intent,
Yeah.
you know.
And I don't know if the gap actually helped
It
us
helped.
because we went 10ish, if not more, years without really
Yeah,
speaking
it
to each
helped,
other.
dude, because honestly, if we it would have just been like a wound, picking at a wound to always be hanging out and being around.
Mhm.
Like doing like Nate Palooza was like probably, you know, and I think I might have ran into you at that one Snoqualmie Days show that was weird. Other than that, I didn't go to the basement shows. Vicky wanted me to drive her down to see you guys at the New World, and like I did drive her down. Finally, she wore me down, but I
Mhm.
didn't want to do it. And then once I got there, I made up an excuse why I needed to not be there. And
Yeah.
I said, you could stay and have them take you home. And she's like, no, I'll go with you. So, I mean, I tried. I just didn't want to be reminded. And the New World was probably, it probably wasn't Eric even, or it might have been Eric still.
It was Eric. It was Eric. It was Jason. It was Eric, Jason, Adam. It was that lineup. Yeah.
I did try the best Derek Rivera could try to like see if I could be the better man, but I just, and I had nothing against Jason, but I didn't like seeing his face because he was the guy who took my gig.
Mhm.
So like, I don't know the dude. Fuck,
Right.
you know.
Um.
But man, let me just put a button on it and say that if that had not happened, I wouldn't have been forced to go the way I needed to go because we were different and
Mhm.
music tastes were different, and it put me on my right path. So
Well, I would. Well, yeah. You don't like the heavy screamy stuff, which is what I wanted to start doing. I would say a lot of our taste is the same. You know, late '80s and earlier. We
well,
probably
Carl,
have
I've
a
told
lot
you
of
this
that stuff.
before. Like I think the screaming can be cool sometimes, and I think you have a talent for it and you're better at it. I could never do it. I think the thing that always makes me cross-eyed, my perspective, not yours, is that you can sing. And I
Mhm.
always felt like a lot of the, Cookie Monster guys, that's kind of all they had.
Mhm.
And so, like, it's cool you can do both. But I was always like, well, if you could sing, man, why aren't you singing?
Yeah.
And that's my closed mindedness. But that's why
It's just a
I
different
just,
energy. It's just a different energy in the music that I wanted to do.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
like BJ can sing really well, but he also screamed. You know, iRod or the Chad, the band he was in with Chad was no singing whatsoever. It was just 100% yelling.
miss that guy.
Um, yeah, I was telling Chad, I said that's one he would have been such a fun episode to do.
You know what I miss about BJ, man? I appreciate your kind words about feeling like I'm a mentor, and I appreciate that. And I did feel like loved it that I could help bring anybody along. Like I had the 4-track. People would come down and play in my house with the 4-track. Like if I could teach you stuff, if I could teach Chad that one bass riff that we joked that he played a lot. Like I enjoyed that. The one guy, the one guy in my musical history that was always going to be my mentor was
BJ.
BJ.
Yeah,
Cause he was older. He had this like different taste and some like shit like Candlemass and King Diamond. And dude, as hard rock as that guy was though too. I remember that dude pulling up listening to fucking The Chronic or Snoop Dogg, what's my name? And he's like,
yeah,
I kind of like the Snoop Dogg guy. And I'm like, who the fuck are you?
yeah. Yeah.
So I miss that.
I didn't know BJ like you guys did. You and Chad both had your separate things with him. I knew him from, being in your band. He came over one night and spent the night at our house with Chad, and Chad had his big amp, and BJ could play. He was like playing these really heavy riff, just sitting in front of the amp, like facing it, just playing this riff, and he was trying to get us. He was trying to tell us liking '80s butt rock was not the way to go. It was anything choreographed was not cool. As far as stage presence goes. Um, I I can't. I need to talk to Chad again about this. There was a point where we revisited with BJ, Chad and I, and BJ was going to be the singer, and I didn't want to give up singing, and we had shortly, just like one conversation, talked about having dual lead singers. And I can't remember if it was probably before. I have to talk to Chad. I can't remember when that was.
Well, I remember, so I don't want to take you off your path of questions. So like, but before Sabidril, me and BJ had gotten together and BJ wanted to start a band with this other guy he was playing with in Kirkland, and he wanted me to be his guitar player. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. It was after the Stronghold show.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, back to real guys that can play. And I was like, okay. And I remember I played that song he recorded at my house. So at some point there must have been a talk of BJ, because I remember we were like, oh my, his voice had really improved.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, was that after the
yeah,
whole...
now that I'm talking about it, now I'm thinking it might have been before. Maybe that was,
because I remember
was I doing that before
recording.
I feel like that would have been after a Stublance, but it kind of doesn't make sense because once the Stublance was going, well, anyway, so there was that. And I was just going to say, I talked to him probably a year or two before he died, and we were having a really good conversation. Sent him a bunch of old Sabidril stuff. We talked about how Sabidril was a missed opportunity because it was our first band and stuff. And we talked about getting it wouldn't it be fun to get it Sabidril together with people who could play now? And I remember that was a conversation. We were really going to try to put that out there, but we couldn't track down Kian. But the thing about Sabidril that I love is it was guys from all over the fucking map, and we could have never come up with a sound. Our sound was like grungy, punky, metally, dark stuff. Dude, BJ's English teachers loved him. He was into like Edgar Allan Poe, like he was well read, smart dude. One of our songs, "Walk with Me," he did it after he read, I think it was called The Raven. It was Edgar Allan Poe. Dude, I'm a dumb kid. I don't know who I've heard the name, but like I'm not educated. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, he was such a talent. You know, his talent like had a hard time catching up to like his mind. Like what he was ready to be. Such a loss. I wish you could interview him. I'd love to hear from that guy and just his perspective. He just had a lot of cool perspectives.
And I reminded Chad when he started IROT, but it was now I can't remember. It was something
%7.
%7. No, that was a different band.
I remember watching them. They came up on a public access.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I remember watching it going, that's BJ.
Yeah.
Technically it's TV.
So it was right after it was shortly after I moved over here. BJ and I were connected on some messenger thing. And he asked me, I don't think he realized that I moved over here. And he asked me if I wanted to play bass in a project he had coming up. I was like, I don't live over there.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, Chad plays bass. Ask him. He still lives over there. So
right.
He called Chad, and that's how they got connected to start that or do that IROT project.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of funny that he like approached me first, just thinking that I was over. And I don't know if I would have done. I didn't play bass, so that wouldn't have really.
Shit, Carl, I might be your first 3-part interview.
I know. Where are we at? We're at it's an hour 30, almost
2,
an hour 40.
2, right, and I'm not even playing in the second Sabidril yet.
You're not. Do you want to do it part 2?
No, you can always break this up too, right?
I can later, but I don't think I have a whole lot more time. I got about another hour probably.
Let's see. We shouldn't go past another hour, but let's just keep rolling up here.
We had a lot of veer offs on here.
I like the BJ talk, but I don't want to veer off on you guys are dicks.
Right. No, we're done. We're done with that one too.
So after that is the Sabidril. Sorry, man, it's your interview.
No, it's fine. So did you bring us to BJ's practice space with that other guy? He had really long hair down in Seattle.
Yeah, but Rainier Brewery?
Right around there, yeah.
Did I bring you? I don't remember that.
But I went down and it was just him and another guy.
Yeah, that's the Wicked King Wicker thing that we were trying to. That's why I have that one vocal track of him on my 4-track, because we recorded it. And the other guy was a good guitar player too, but I mean, they would have it would have been an interesting band. It was still a throwback, kind of like wasn't as
Yeah.
modern.
I remember
Anyways, didn't work
BJ
out.
saying, you can, play music, but you need to play music stoned. And that's when you'll really figure out, like, and it was like, because he was clean, like, for a while, because I think he had some, or maybe it's just rumors. I remember something about him having some kind of issue with his heart, so he couldn't do any kind of stimulants or anything like that.
I
But I
remember
don't remember.
I remember the Hi-Fi show, and I remember BJ. He's like, yeah, we got to go to the show. We got to go shopping or something. We got to get rock gear. And I'm like, what? We're just going to play. He's like, so he took me and Matt, or Matt drove us to the U District. We went to Off the Wall, and he was shopping for like these cool, like fucking rings with eyeballs on them and fucking, and I'm like, no, but that's what I mean, mentor. I'm like, dude, this guy is the real deal. He's buying the rock gear. I'm showing him tennis shoes and a t-shirt. Like, dude, fuck. I mean, he wowed me. And he's my first singer. Like I didn't sing yet. He was the guy, like, and he was also he also wrote, there's a song we did called Abyss Number 8. That's all him. He wrote all the words and music. I still have
Here's a factoid you may not know. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but we contacted BJ to sing with Sally and Groove, not instead of Sabidril, but also, like, because none of us wanted to sing, and we thought
I don't know if you told me that or he told me when it happened in real time, but I was aware of it. But it was also made clear, whoever told me, it was clear that we're not trying to steal him. We just want to borrow him.
Yeah, just for that one, for that show. So, yeah. Okay, so let's get into Sabidril 2. Was that the next, well, besides Stronghold, was that the next thing?
So Eric is now a stray because he's been kicked out too. So like somehow we ran into each other, and like all's forgiven because you've felt my pain. Enemy of my enemy is my friend. We're okay. So you guys are the best thing that happened to him and mine's relationship. And I was like, hey man, I still want to fucking play. He's like, yeah, I want to play. And now we're like, well, let's fucking play. And Eric, like myself, is also not like you and Chad either. Like he has different, like asking him to be a metal drummer was a big ask.
Yeah.
Right. So like, because he's the drummer I was like, it kind of brought out the other things in me that I wouldn't have brought out. Cause I always admitted to you, like later on, that I always kind of felt like I was faking it. And probably some of the reason like my metal stuff always felt like a little dated is because that's where I was pulling from. Like I wasn't a hardcore metal guy. And so more of my punkier, poppier side was able to really nurture. And that was coming, it was 93. And we were really coming to our own. And me and Eric wanted a singer, and we wanted a girl singer. And we tried out Jen Miller. We tried out Melissa. We were just trying to put this. And meanwhile, I have all the delay pedals going and doing this kind of shoegazy Cure. Like we were going for the Cure, Chili Peppers, like different vibe. But we just couldn't get the singers going on. So kind of again, I'm like, well, fuck, I'll sing. It's just easier. You don't have to look for it. We need a bass player. And I know I went to school with Mike, and I know Matt might have played a part, but somehow Mike came into the conversation. Eric knew of him. So Mike Albert was playing bass. I didn't know it. So he shows up, and first off, he looks like the guy we should be playing with because he's like 6'7", just as tall. Like he had like a cooler urban or Chris Novoselic vibe, and we were going to be probably a 3-piece. So it's like, oh, this dude, it's great.
Yeah.
And he was coming up, and he did pretty good on his own, but he would still take feedback from me on where the notes were and stuff. So it worked out good. So I could kind of run the band. And yeah, so we were trying to figure out names. We just could not figure out names. And I think I just said, guys, this name will never get used again, but Sabidril was kind of a cool name. And Eric was kind of like, hey, I could play with that. And Mike's like, yeah, Sabidril's cool. Because I'm like, yeah, it's Sabidril. It's not a word, but it kind of sounds like it's something. It sounds like subdural or something. Like it's got like a cool thing. Sabidril 2. Dumbest thing I ever did, by the way, because now when I still friends with everybody and I'm talking about the band, I got to fucking figure out a way to make sure you know which band I'm talking about.
Yeah. Did you call it Sabidril 2 or just Sabidril?
Just Sabidril. Because I didn't think like Matt, BJ, Kian would give a shit or ever come back to it. Matt was the only one I was slightly worried about it. I might have even asked Matt if it was okay. Because the way we came up with Sabidril was the stupidest fucking way we ever came up with that name anyways. We were like, again, all my bands, hardest time to come up with band names, and they all end up being stupid names. Estevolence. It was a mash of our middle names. BJ story. Sorry, I got to do more BJ story. So Sabidra was like, well, let's just come up with something metal and hard. And like, we'll say, each of us will come up with a word that represents that. And we'll say it really fast, see if it blends into something. So I said stove. And like somebody else said drill. And I forgot what the other word was. And BJ just being funny, he's like, bush. So we started
Cool.
laughing. So it was stove, bush, drill is what we ended up saying like really fast. Stove, bush, drill, stove, bush, drill, stove, drill. So Bidra.
Right. Funny.
So our first show was, I think, would have been Nate. That I ran into Nate maybe in town. And he said he was having something at his house. So it's at Nate Palooza. So we played with. So it's me, you, your band, and Nate's band. So Sabidral. And I don't know, was that with Toby?
No, that was with Tim.
So, yeah. So that was our first show. And I got to admit, man, you guys probably don't even remember. And that's okay. We were the first ones on. And I really had something to prove, man. And I gave a really good show. And I don't care if anybody liked it or not. Like, I exercised some demons because I was playing for you, Chad, and Adam, and just like showing you guys that I didn't need you. And I don't think you guys gave two shits about any of that, by the way. This is just where it's coming from me. I'm saying this is just like my own imaginary fire that I'm pulling from.
Yeah. Let's go back to band names. What did it go from Estevalence to? Was it Refused with you, or was that after you?
It was talked about with me because I have a tape, that last tape that was recorded at your house that I played on. It was a rehearsal. And there's like a few songs where I'm in school and it's just you guys. And then I come and I play and it's like 6 songs total. And it says on it, Refused.
Interesting. Okay.
But I think
I don't remember that discussion of changing.
No, it was something floating around. And I think before, so at that practice, I think that's what we're going to go for. And then I think you told me before I got kicked out that someone had told you there was a band from Sweden named Refused. So we couldn't use it. So by the time you kicked me out, it was already something you weren't going to do.
Okay. So I was just thinking, I go, have we ever been through the process of naming a band together? But I guess that would be the only version of that.
No, but that was, I think, you, and I just thought it sounded good. Like, I didn't want to fight it because there was nothing to fight. I was like, yes, it's a great idea. I'm fine with that.
And like Silent Groove was already, you came into that one, so you didn't have any of that process, which was just us looking through old books, old Westerns and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's funny.
Which I still think the one that got shot down is a better option. The one that I became a knuckle duster. That's what I wanted it to be.
It's in the pantheon with Three Finger Jack.
Yeah. Okay. So, and how far did you go with Sabidral too?
Sabidral played Alpine Days too.
Okay.
No, take that back. We did not play Alpine Days. We started playing a talent show. Mama Lucia's restaurant at the time in North Bend had a talent show, and the grand prize was a trip to Hawaii. And so we played the first night and just swept the floor. And we ended up like being asked to play like there often. So we like basically won that contest, but we were also like playing these mini sets of Mama Lucia's because I know a lot of covers and I was teach Mike and Eric. So we put in our songs, but we did a lot of covers too.
Okay.
And we would do like Doors songs, Duran Duran songs, just like all the shit. That prize never came out because that whole thing was a fraudulent fucking business. That prize never happened, but the guy that emceed the contest, I should say, and then we went and recorded over in Ellensburg like everyone else did too.
Okay.
And we meant to do more, but just kind of was having a hard time finding more gigs. I'm working at the perfume store in the mall and I get a call. Somebody tracked down my number. The MC at the talent show was this guy named Neil Rush, who was used to be a member of the Wailers a long time ago. He was married to Mary Lee Rush at one time.
Okay.
And he managed a band called Illicit Smile, and they had just lost their guitar player, and they were trying to find a guitar player. They had found one guitar player, but he just wanted to basically fill in for a show to help him out. So they needed a long-term guy. Sabidral kind of petered out. Eric had kind of disappeared, which Eric can do sometimes. Mm-hmm. So me and Mike were in a similar spot that me and you were in, where it's like we still wanted to go on, and we actually tried Toby out.
Oh, okay.
And I recorded one song with me, Mike, and Toby. And I don't even know if Toby remembers. We were at his house and it was like one rehearsal. And it was cool, but Toby had other things going on. So at this point, Neil calls me and says, "Hey, you're the guy that played in that band at the talent show, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I'm the MC." And he gave me who he was. I was like, "Oh, cool. Hey, I got this band, Illicit Smile. They rehearsed in Seattle. You're a good guitar player, man." I told him I knew a good guitar player. I want to set you up an audition if you're ready. And he was like telling me like, these guys are opening up for national acts. They're doing this. They're doing this. I'm shopping a record deal. And you know where we came from. Like he was telling me everything I always wanted to hear. And I never heard of Illicit Smile, but I was like, sign me up. So he sent me a tape. And it was the first time I had to audition for a band, truly, and had to put the tape in and like learn the songs and the tuning. It's the first time I ever had to do that. Like, even though I'd learned cover songs and stuff, but it was like a thing. And I fucking did it. And I showed up and I got the gig, and it was a 4-piece band. And
What kind of music?
I'll have to send you the tape. You have to tell me, man. But it was like the guy singing Doug was like Doug Colton. He was from Georgia, and he really sang, man. I felt like if that band would have made it, it probably would have been like I'm not saying it sounded like, but it would have been lumped in with like a Spin Doctors, Counting Crows. You get me?
Yeah.
Like alternative pop rock.
Yeah. And what was this, 94-ish?
94, 95. Yeah. 94-ish. Their first gig was at DV8 or the Oz or whatever that old underage club was called at the time. In April, it was Oasis. First album, nobody had heard of them, really. I mean, they had that Live Forever song. So if you listen to the end, you heard of them, but they weren't the Oasis yet.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, fuck, these guys are opening for Oasis. Like, it's like this band's got shit going on for them. So yeah, that was what I wanted. For me, I was taking that next step that I thought the Valley bands could do, but like now I'm doing my own. I had some sense of pride. It was helping me heal over my self-esteem issues and everything. And I just felt like, we joke, but yeah, I was feeling like I was like real musicians, like real, like grown up people. Cause I'm not even 21 yet. Right. So like, I'm still a kid in my mind. And these guys are in their early 20s and 20s. And eventually I get in that band, and Neil's trying to get them for a bunch of money. He says he owes. He tried to say I owed. I'm like, dude, I never signed anything with you. And they're kind of like done with his managerialship because they felt like a lot of his like references are really old and not really, he's not going to really get them where he needs to get. He's a lot of talk. And so they had to make the decision. So the first thing goes is the manager. Next thing that goes is they're like, they don't really like the singer. Kind of like how you described how you look me as like kind of doing annoying shit. Like that's how they kind of viewed him. He was kind of like schlocky and a little like cheesy. And they heard me singing because he'd be late to practices. And James, the drummer's like, dude, could you just sing? I'm like, I could. So he's out. So now what's happened is now it's this band that's not Illicit Smile. We haven't come up with a name yet. Ends up being Far From Nothing, but it's this guy named August playing bass, James, and me. Well, just as we're getting started, we're getting a rehearsal place set up and we're starting to get gigs booked. The bass player ends up kind of making out with somebody at a party the drummer brought, and now they're not friends anymore. So now we're looking for a fucking bass player. So I go back to the only place I know, the Valley, and we find this guy who's playing at Martin Hills in a cover band named Connell O'Hara. And he was really into the vibe of playing into an original like Seattle band in addition to his cover band. So he temporarily filled in the spot, but him and James never fully got on. And Connell's a lot older than us. And he, like we wanted to record our demo, which we ended up doing, but he wanted to record it because he had equipment at home and he didn't understand why we wanted to pay money. And we're like, no, we want to do it this way. So we had these little arguments. So eventually he left. And so the final lineup is we ended up playing a show with a band, and we met Leonard, who was from 2-Bit Casanova and a couple bands. And that ended up being the Far From Nothing band. And that's the band that was like opening for Twisted Sister. We were playing like all over the place. James networked like crazy. We rehearsed at NAF. So we had this great connection to NAF. And that's where we ended up like jamming with like Sean Kinney and Chris Cornell and like that whole scene up there. And we were just networking with bands that were playing better shows. At the time, our roommates or neighbors were lesbian muff divers who were playing all over the place. So yeah, it was great, man. It was, I felt finally that I was getting somewhere. Unfortunately, it was 1995 and everybody moved to Seattle like it was LA.
Yeah.
And what was once like this fertile area of bands, like now you're fighting probably harder than if you just, oh, it's crazy, dude. Like we had a demo we recorded at Avast Studios. It was produced by the guy, Clint, the guitar player in Seaweed, and he did his portion down in Tacoma. And like we just had a lot of things going for us, and we just couldn't get out of our way, man. And
Yeah.
eventually, again, I'm pretty immature, bro. Like I wasn't pulling my weight because I wasn't getting out in clubs as much because I had just turned 21, and I think James, who was doing most of the work, was definitely doing most of the work, like was just burnt out. So this band ends up kind of just putting out because the one dude that was really pulling more than his weight wasn't feeling supported. And if I could go back in time, I would have done a better job. But I wasn't the type of guy that want to sit and hang out at bars, clubs. And that's what you had to do, Carl. You had to
Yeah.
network, and you had to like, me and you were a little bit alike in this way. Like I did drink a little bit, but like I'm more over a sober kid. Like I wasn't gonna, I mean, these are professional drinkers, right? You got to hang out
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And I'm not a scenester. Like I like sitting at home. So that band just puttered out, but it had the most potential, I think, out of a lot of bands.
Now let me go back just a ways. Does Matt,
Downs,
the archaeologist, what's his name? Why can't I think of his name right now? Matt Walsh.
haven't played with him yet.
This Matt Walsh was after?
Yeah. So when I left Subidral,
Okay,
like,
okay. I thought that was before, so I thought maybe it's
well, no, we just put a book in on that real quick. When I left, Subidral stopped because Eric kind of disappeared. Well, Mike ended up moving in with Matt.
Okay.
Matt wasn't playing with Stronghold anymore, and they ended up being bros, and they still are. They're like the bestest friends. Worked with Matt at, I want to say, the video store. Does that sound familiar in North Bend?
Yeah, I think so.
It's the video nights in North Bend too. I know they had video nights in Falls City. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's the
there's
same.
video nights in North Bend.
Or Moon Valley Video.
There's video nights in North Bend. I know that.
But I think it was Moon Valley Video.
Okay.
So Eric's working with Matt. So now Matt is playing guitar. So they end up forming Cage.
Okay.
So I just want to put the book in there. So while I'm doing all my stuff, there's this band called Cage. Far From Nothing played Alpine Days with not the same day as Cage, but I think Cage played a couple bands after us.
Okay.
So that's where we go with Matt. That's they're doing their separate thing.
Okay. Okay. So go on.
So when Far From Nothing ended, I was really hurting, and I kept my place at NAF, and I ended up getting back in touch with Eric. And I think Cage had broken up, and I was like, dude, let's do a band again, man. Eric's my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
And we've played in so many bands together. And so again, same story as will be repeated in my life. Me and Eric Rice are sitting there trying to get a band together. We're just having a hard time getting a bass player. And finally I'm like, why can't we just get Mikey? So we called Mikey, and all we wanted was Mikey. We basically were going to reform like a Subidral, whether we did the same songs or whatever. And Mike's like, yeah, I might be interested in playing, but you guys should ask Matt too, because at this point they're living in Seattle together. It wasn't my intention to like have a band with Matt. Nothing against Matt, it just wasn't my intention. But I was like, well, if that's what gets Mikey down to audition, let's do it. So Mike comes down with Matt, and we ended up becoming Hooper's Market. So it's like Subidral and Cage end up kind of combining. And that band was cool. And I moved to Seattle. I lived with those guys. And I just couldn't find, it just ended up kind of being like a Valley band again, but like in Seattle.
Okay.
And it was just really hard I didn't have as many of the contacts as I thought I was going to have. And I kind of started over. So that band petered out. Eric disappears again. I think it's before he moved to Idaho.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can just put that on a reel like, Derek, let's form a band. Yeah. Hey, has anybody seen Eric?
So let me ask you this. Out of all these times when you were thinking about trying to get musicians, was the hurt with me so much that you never even considered? Not that I would have been available, because I wouldn't have.
Didn't even consider.
Yeah.
That was dead to me because that was just a bad experience. Yeah. Like, yeah. So I remember coming to your house, your trailer, and Chad and me driving out there. So I know there was a point where we reacquainted before your mom passed away, because I got to see them.
The trailer in North Bend.
Yeah. So I don't know if I feel like that was like, did we accidentally run into each other? Or
I ran
somehow
into you because we crossed paths a few times. We were both working in Preston at the same time.
That's right. Sanmar.
I worked at Sanmar, and you worked at the convenience store. There was that, and there was also you worked at that other place that was Uh,
Powder Vision, the powder coating place over in
yeah,
the
yeah.
industrial park.
And I don't know if you told me that you worked over there, or if I just randomly was driving through and I saw you. I don't remember that either. But yeah, we reconnected at that probably would have been like 2003, 4-ish, something like that. 2000.
And enough time had happened where it was like okay to see you. Like I didn't, hey, I hadn't seen you in a while.
Yeah, and you had all those old recordings that you put on a CD or
Yeah.
something and kind of showed us. And
And we decided to get together, like, and then Chad was in Seattle working or something, and it was decided that like me and Chad would just carpool out to you.
okay. Oh, you went in with Chad. You came out with Chad.
Yeah, I picked Chad up on he was, I think he had just finished working. It's when he was working in, God, what's that, East Lake.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh
down by
yeah,
the
this is
water.
massage. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I picked him up in my Cougar and we drove out there because I was going to bring him back because I lived close and that seemed like
Okay.
it made sense where we didn't have to drive separately.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hung out that night and your parents stopped by, which was cool. I think Liz was working, so that's the only person I actually surprisingly didn't see. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I mean, and knowing that was the last time I got to see your mom, I'm glad I got to see her
Real
and see your
similar
dad too.
to your dad happened to be at your
Yeah,
apartment when I was there last time I saw your dad too.
and your mom was always a great person to me. And even after our band broke up, and it might have took a little prodding. I'm sure Vicky might have had something to do with this too. Like when I graduated late. When I finally graduated, like one of the cards was from her, and I showed you that as I have the signature on it. So
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure she didn't see in the paper I was graduating. I'm sure Vicky probably mentioned something to her, but the fact that she did that she's a good woman, man. And
Did you
I always,
graduate the same year Liz did then? Was that the same?
no, I
No.
graduated before Liz.
Okay. Because she would have been 97, 90. I can't remember.
Must have been 97.
You were 96. So I was at your graduation. So I remember you did your speech and you threw the papers up in the air after you got done speaking.
Maybe you were with Liz because I know Liz and John, I think, were going to come for me. Well,
Yeah.
but they knew it wasn't just me. They knew other people were graduating.
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
you were just,
they were going to that school too.
maybe it was just Liz plus one.
Maybe, I don't know, but I remember I was there. I saw you graduate.
Yeah.
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 Um.
Playing Lean on Me with Andy Moreno.
Um. So we get back in contact. Then you're still actively playing after we start.
I do one more band after the Eric band. So that band with we all moved out of the house. Eric kind of went away, disappeared again. So like I started answering ads in like 2004, and there was this ad for this guy. I picked Missionary was the band. And his name was Umberto, and he was a singer songwriter, and he had this crazy punk rock drummer. And so I showed up. I auditioned. It went well. She's on drums. He's on guitar. And I was auditioning for bass. First time I auditioned for bass. There's another band before that. Fuck, playing a lot of bands, dude. I'm sorry, man. So after Eric, it actually was this band called, this band I did with LT, the guy from NAF, who is now at the Jambox. And I played with him as this Finnish singer. And they were called Dirge. And I did a couple years with them and then answered the ads that I'm talking about now, which is Happy Ending, which is the band I was with for a while.
Isn't LT on that one recording of ours?
No, that was Brian.
Brian.
Oh no, that's another guy who lives up the street.
He played lead, right?
Yeah.
Part of the lead.
LT. I don't think you met LT though, but yeah,
No.
LT lived right up the street from me.
Okay, no, I never met him, but
yeah, cool guy. Yeah, he's about 10 years older than 10, 15 years older than us. He played in Seattle bands back in the day too. Anyway, sorry, man. So that band, I brushed by that real quick. So that band didn't pan out. So now I'm answering ads. I auditioned for bass players. First time I wanted to play bass. And they have a show that night. And he's basically impressed by my audition. He's like, dude, normally we'd tell you we got other people and we'll get back to you, but we got a show tonight and we really like you. Like, will you play with us? And not only did I play that night, but I had a bunch of networking. I called all my friends and said, hey, man, I'm back in a band. We're playing tonight. And I had like 25 people probably at that bar. And I think it was the Hi-Fi in Ballard. And they were impressed by that. And I had to have some bum notes, but I was on bass and I was pretty good at following along, watching alongs. No one knew that I auditioned for that band that afternoon.
Yeah.
And I played with them we played a bunch of gigs, played with them for about a year, but a month in, we went to record and my house got broken into and they stole a bunch of my stuff. and I got depressed and I'm trying to get my place like gussied up for so no one breaks into it again. They hadn't heard from me and it only took a week, which I thought was lame. And they had already replaced me with Brian, who you met. They
Brian
put
Lenny.
an ad out and listened to Brian. So I call him back. I'm like, hey, sorry, man, this happened. I'm back. What's going on? And it was like a week and a half later. He's like, well, Derek, I hate to say this, but I'm embarrassed to say this, but we thought you just didn't want to play with us anymore. We have a new bass player. And I'm like, what? And he's like, but we know you're a really good guitar player too. We don't want to stop playing with you. We play guitar with us. I'm back in the band now as a guitar player with Brian and Chanel.
In the length of one phone call, you're out and you're back in.
What's crazy about that band is Umberto was a go-getter. He worked for Microsoft and Chanel worked for Microsoft. What I didn't know at the time is she was part of the team of 7 that invented the Xbox.
Really?
I didn't learn this till later when she threw me a book about the invention of the Xbox. She's like, flip to the middle, and I'm looking, her and her husband are part of the team of 7, like not including Bill Gates, which explains why they had this like fucking house on 59th and Fremont next to Chihuly. I'm like, I know they're internet people, but I don't know what the fuck they do. Like, it was like, better not to ask.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Berta put us in the studio and he got us this weird gig where you'd submit songs to TV shows. So I'm on an episode of it's called South of Heaven or South of Nowhere or something like that. It's like it was on the Noggin channel and it's kind of like a teen drama. It kind of is like a Degrassi junior high-ish type of show. And sure shit, he got the song on there. It's I forgot what it's called, but like the opening credits, the kids are doing a car wash, and it's the bumper music as the show starts. Da, da, da. And I used to be like, dude, I'm playing on fucking TV in a weird way. The weirdest thing to get into. And so he calls me up. He's like, he wrote the song. He got the gig, so he got most of the money. He was like, but performance royalties, man, how much do you want? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. He's like, I was thinking I'd give you 100 and Chanel 100. I'm like, well, I don't know what you get paid for that. So we agreed to it. And Chanel's like, you know what? I don't really like playing with this guy. For whatever reason, they kind of had fallen out. We felt we could do something else. And she's like, Derek, I heard you sing. In her opinion, and not to slag on him, he's a great guy, but she's like, I'd rather have you sing. So we had Brian, me, and Chanel. I was happy ending. And then on the way out, we didn't have a PA. And he's like, well, he knew he was getting kicked out. And he wasn't happy about it. He's like, well, I still owe you that money. I'll get it to you. And we were like, dude, can we buy your PA? He's like, how much? I'm like, the 200 you owe us. It's like, that PA is worth more than that. I'm like, yeah, but you'll never see us again. Just be done with it. He's like, yeah, it's got a bad channel 3 and 4, but fuck it, take it. So we got our PA out of it. You played a ton of shows opening for people. We did this Emergenza festival and contest where the grand prize was going to be the show in Europe, and we made a couple rounds in that. But it ended up being the same thing where Chanel was doing most of the work. We recorded our album. She was getting the gigs. She didn't work because she was almost semi-retired. She had such a gift at gab. She had a great marketing mind. So we just stepped back and let her do it.
Semi-retired because she made so much at Microsoft.
Yeah. But that Xbox deal was great. But that's my fault. This is something I have to come to terms with, is all these opportunities failed because I wasn't able to do my equal share, because I see people doing it so well that I just let them do it and they get burnt out. And that's where we kind of come into each other's lives again, because that's where you met Brian and my dad that last time. So that's bringing it to that time.
Okay. So you and I decide to do a little long distance relationship.
Tell me though, Liz called me when I was working my job and I hadn't talked to you in a while. She was upset saying, hey, you need to give Carl a call because your mom had died.
Okay.
So I knew that was I don't know if it was an meet, because I think we hadn't talked in a while and I thought it'd be weird and I did want to reach out. So I told her I'll get a hold of him eventually, but please send my condolences, And I think hopefully that got to you. I think so. If that wasn't the direct catalyst, I'll let you take over. But I know there was that event before we got together.
If it did get to me, I couldn't tell you whether, because there's a lot of stuff happening in my head right there. So I'm assuming it did, but I don't know. Liz and I had a weird thing too. So we were over at that point.
Was it Facebook? Or not Facebook, but on MySpace. Was that how we kind of got reconnected?
It could have been.
Because that would have been around the same time. We would have been corresponding.
Yeah.
So it's probably, I bet you it was.
Maybe it was probably MySpace. But we decided to, I don't know what our actual vision was, doing Sally and Groove again, but we quickly figured out only you and I would be interested in doing that. we shot some stuff back and forth. Of course, like it's always been, you're way more into the recording stuff, knew what you're doing. I had no idea. I had equipment. Did I have equipment
You
or
were
did
able to
you?
record a vocal.
Okay, so I had something.
You
Um,
would come over to my house initially, but then we developed a way to do it with Dropbox, and just I would send you a track, and then vocal is pretty much what you were doing. So you put the vocal on, and I would take just the vocal that you sent back, and then I would
yeah,
mix. And
yeah.
so we were doing songs that way, which was great.
And how many? I don't know how many we ended up doing. We did a couple of covers. We did a couple of originals.
Yeah, I feel like we hit a pretty good stride.
We we did a couple. We did a cover and an original at your house.
Yeah, we did a couple covers and we did some originals, and there were some originals that like I didn't have a chance to put anything on that because you were sending me songs that you would come up with. I
Yeah.
remember I had this mixtape of ideas I had, ideas you had, and things we'd worked on together, and it
Okay.
was like 8 or 9 songs.
Yeah. Okay. So that I don't know how long that went on. A year longer.
Well,
2.
I felt it started putting out right around the time you stopped driving professionally. Because
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think you were lining up to do the path,
Yeah.
and
To do school and all that.
yeah, and you had a sort of relationship thing going on that was pulling you in all types of directions too, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think you were just at a crossroads, and it made it difficult to be as active as me.
Oh yeah. But definitely. Or my effort. I didn't want to put the effort in to be as active as you. Um. Then again, I felt like I was holding you. Like I didn't know how to do the recording stuff. I didn't play to a click. I didn't play to a grid. I would send you stuff. You're like, Carl, this isn't lined up with any. I don't know. It's like, yeah,
Well, you
because I
need
don't
a
know how to
click
do
track.
that. I don't even know how do you do a click track on there?
And I was
Um,
still kind of learning too, because I remember there was things I couldn't field questions yet, and I gave you Brian's number, and you were calling Brian, who was like my guru on Cubase in the beginning, because there was stuff I'd be like, I don't know about that one, man. Here, call Brian.
yeah. So I don't know. It was a combination of just me going kind of doing life in a different direction. Doing school health wise was declining. Um, Felt like I was maybe obviously I wasn't as invested as you, and I felt like maybe I was holding you back. And that gets to a point where either commit more or bow out altogether.
And this is also so that's what's going on in your head, but I'm starting to like I start delving into the old garbage again, because it's starting to feel like you're leaving me,
Yeah.
because I'm not understanding it quite like you're explaining right now. I'm just like, oh, he's not available to talk as much. He's not just corresponding with me as much. I'm sending him these tracks to hear, and now he's not even commenting on them. And I'm starting with my own people pleaser, self-esteem issues that isn't necessarily you, it's me doing it, where I'm like, oh, you must not think I'm good enough for him again, like. And then even so far, like, you started doing your new path, and then I remember when you said you were starting to play in the cover band, I was like, because I think I finally to a place where it's like, okay, he's going to go to school. He's going to different career. He's doing a lot of things. And I was able to kind of wrap my head around it and be like, okay, it's not me, chill out. But then you started doing music again, but it wasn't like, I thought we'd pick up doing what we were doing. I'm like, oh no, maybe it was me. And again, we've talked about this before, but like, so it's kind of old stuff, but like, it's just how my mind works. But your mind and my mind seem to do the same thing. We seem to be like, you're not wanting to be any trouble. So you're just leaving something alone, which I'm interpreting as like, you don't want me in your life
Yeah.
doing these things.
And if to me, it's way more tangible to be doing music in person with somebody. And if we were in person, we would have been doing it. I'm sure of it. We probably would have still been doing something.
I didn't hold on to that
form.
for long.
Right.
I will say, like, that was just kind of like, oh, you're doing music again. But then I was like, yeah, it's whatever. But then I came out to see you when you guys played this side.
Yeah, me drumming, which was just cover songs. It was a totally different thing.
Totally different thing.
Yeah. But so Left with Nothing, no, Happy Ending. Was that your last? You did briefly join Brian and his wife in that.
We were going to do a cover band with Casinos. They're still going on, the Aquanets. I helped start that. But yeah, I had things going on in my life. I had I had long bouts of like mental health that needed to be addressed and anxiety. And it's not for here to discuss, but the long and short of it is I was finally getting older and I was finally like, why am I feeling terrible all the time? My
Yeah.
life's pretty good. Like, why does it matter? Why do I get floored? Why do I misinterpret things? Why do I get floored when if people don't seem to be interested in me? Like, I'm floored because I try so hard, like to be whatever they need me to be. And the whole point of that, eventually with therapy is you realize like that's bad behavior that comes from being a child and how I coped.
Hmm.
And as I work on that, it helps me with these other issues that don't happen as much anymore. But I left them behind is basically where I'm rounding up because I needed to take a break from the music. And I didn't want to play in a band. I fully loved recording. And that's why I like that we were doing the correspondence because it allowed me to do what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
But I get it because I've had a couple other people want to start bands with me and I'm like, "No, I'm a recording musician. If let's do that. That's
Yeah.
fun to me." And they're like,
Yeah.
"No, we want to play in front of people." So somebody came into my life like about 2008, 18, 19, Andy. And me, Eric Rice, and Andy were buds for one like winter, and we're gonna like form a band, and it never happened in a much more primeval level. And so he had just moved back from Mexico, and Eric was around. We started just talking, and we started showing some videos of old jams. And those guys were like, "Let's play a band. Let's play a band." And Andy had a really cool house to rehearse at, and I didn't want to be in a band again. So I was like, "Well, we'll try." And I sat in a room and played with them for a couple hours, and it felt so good playing live. So the last band I was in was this Indelible Hooks, and we only did a recording project, and that has now been put to bed for probably good.
For
But
sure.
I'm glad it ended on that note. But that's it, man. But I've been pretty much just recording and just getting my chops up, and you know what I've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. So we are now, I think we are the longest, 221.
It's felt like longer. Good luck editing it, dude, and edit how you wish. It is your show, and there's probably a lot of fat to trim.
I'm sure I'll just push that button of dead space and we'll call it good. It's fine.
My feelings won't get hurt if as long as it's over 48 minutes when it's done. If it's
It'll.
47 or less, I'll be like, dude, it wasn't that much crap.
I think Chad's and mine raw recording was 202 and it ended up being in 145, an hour 45. So
I don't
we're
get to
probably
talk.
looking at two.
I know we're wrapping it up. I'll say this, man. Through it all, like we're still friends, and it's been
Yeah.
this many years, and I love you. And I've said it privately. I'll say it publicly. And just like brothers, we fight and or we
Dude, it took
misunderstand.
me, how long ago was it that I finally apologized for the way things went down when, I mean,
But
that,
you needed to also hear from me that I was probably needing that too. Like we had a
yeah,
good talk,
yeah,
and like I said then, and you agreed. Like that's work that still needs to be done.
yeah,
It was a good start.
yeah,
But anyways, I'm glad to see everybody thriving. I'm glad to see like I mean this in a loving way. I didn't think Chad was on my bingo card for being the guy still playing live and stuff, but I'm
mhm,
happy for him.
yeah,
And like I don't really talk to him like I talk to you, but like it's good to see him being successful and doing everything music and outside. I'll check out his episode. Looking forward to it. Sounds like that'll be a little more light shed.
yeah, yeah. Well, it
So,
might be.
but
Yeah,
maybe who knows?
it's up, it's ready. So,
Thanks for your time, man.
all right, dude. No, thanks for yours. All right, we'll
Cool.
talk to you later. See you.
Bye.
Bye.